Hey everybody, and happy launch of Z690 and 12th Gen Day. This is JJ with ASUS. Here we're doing a PCDIY stream to be able to kick off this awesome day where we're introducing to you guys to essentially the wide range of boards that we've got for this exciting platform launch. This is really kind of the culmination of a huge amount of time and effort that we've committed, really actually beyond really the last year. There's been thousands of hours that have been committed by an amazing team that we have here as part of the ASUS family. Everybody from, of course, our engineers to our ID team to performance and analysis team, thermal engineering team, innovation team. So many different teams have contributed to be able to make, I think, a truly outstanding series of motherboards and our best series of motherboards to date. When we dive into being able to show you guys what we've got, I think you guys are going to be really impressed. In total, we're going to have over 20 motherboards for this launch. I think 16 motherboards that we're going to have for DDR5 based solutions, and then about 6 motherboards that are going to be for DDR4 based solutions. We're going to have the Prime series, we're going to have the TUF Gaming series, the ROG Strix series, the ROG Maximus series, and of course our ProArt series of motherboards. And all of them are going to be fantastic. So really, whether you're a gamer, you're a creator, or anywhere in between, there's going to be a motherboard for you. And I'm really excited about jumping into these boards and being able to show you what we've got. So as a general recap, if you guys essentially aren't aware, really what is new for this platform is everything. We're talking about an entirely brand new microarchitecture with Intel's new 7 process. So we're going to be introducing a couple of changes in terms of the way that the CPU works, as far as now having P cores and E cores. We've got our new thread director. There's going to be the implementation, of course, of a brand new memory controller introducing DDR5, PCIe Gen 5 support as well. And then you add in, of course, all the next generation I/O that now is going to be present, whether you're talking about, of course, high-speed USB 3.2, Gen 2, Thunderbolt 4, ultra-high-speed Wi-Fi, 2.5 gigabit LAN, and, of course, just extensive connectivity on these boards. So all the way around, really exciting to be able to go ahead and touch on these boards and be able to jump into it. So you can see I've already got some things set up here, and I think that what I want to do is just ultimately give you guys the opportunity to be able to ask you guys questions. I've got a little bit of a general run through to be able to kind of cover some of the new exciting things, and I'll definitely make sure to show off each one of the boards that we have within the series. But really, this stream is just to be able to go ahead and see what questions you guys might have regarding 12th Gen Z690. Now, do keep in mind that there is still an upcoming performance embargo, so we can't go into all the performance specifics as of yet. That'll be coming a little bit later on, and definitely you're going to want to make sure to keep it tuned to our social media channels, as we're going to actually have dedicated live streams for each one of these respective series, where we'll dive into one series at a time to hopefully give you guys the most information on the entire series of motherboards, so that you can kind of really help to understand exactly that model versus another model and how that plays out into the respective series. We are also going to be planning an overclocking demo, which will guide you to actually see what we're talking about when it comes to not only DDR5, but our new AIOC technology that we have for the Z690 platform and 12th Gen series CPUs. We'll have an updated Armory Crate RGB lighting guide too that we'll be releasing. A lot of people really appreciated that when we did that last time around. So that'll help to give you some insight in terms of how everything works in terms of all the new lighting options that we've got on motherboards, and how you can get everything wired in and controlled through one application. As well as also giving you kind of a visibility to all the new functions that we're introducing this generation for Armory Crate, where now we're going to be integrating overclocking control, fan control functionality, monitoring functions, and a whole lot more. So it's now going to kind of become the one-stop hub to be able to give you a really clean, consistent interface in terms of how you work with your board. So let me see what we've got right here, guys. Looks like we've got a lot of people that have joined in. So awesome. Hey, so as far as where you can buy and pre-order, you can start to actually check out e-tailers. There are e-tailers that already do have them listed. I did see actually listings go up on Newegg. Definitely over the next few days, you're going to continue to see actually more availability as far as listings on product pages for different corresponding e-tailers. So you definitely want to give it a couple of days, but you'll definitely start to see those popping up. Hey, thanks for joining us on the stream, man. Fantastic to have you here. Thank you so much. Hey, Steve, thanks for joining us here on the stream. Richard, thanks also for joining us on the stream. Happy to have you here. I would definitely agree. The Prime board is looking fantastic. It's probably, I don't know if it's my favorite, because the Hero, I think, is going to take my favorite for this generation, but it's absolutely stunning design. Really, really clean. Definitely, we're going to talk about the Glacial a little bit. If you guys are into water cooling, you guys are definitely going to love that. Hey, Erica, thanks for letting us know. Audio sounding good. Greg, Thanks for joining us here on the stream. So looks like everything's coming through, guys. Feel free to go ahead and drop your questions, and we'll definitely get to jumping into things. So we actually have Juno from our team here. So fantastic. Juno has actually gone ahead and dropped a link in the chat, which is going to give you guys visibility to the actual product stack. And I'm also going to give you guys a link here so that if you're interested in checking out our brand new landing page, which will help to break down essentially all the motherboards that we have available and all the new kind of cutting edge features and functions, design tech, all that stuff's in there. You can check out that link in the chat. All right, guys. Hey, yes, Raphael, we will be actually covering price points for you so you can have kind of an understanding. It will actually be pretty broad because it really depends on whether you're taking a look at a DDR4 based model or whether you're taking a DDR5 based model. So for our most aggressively priced units, are going to be coming down around about the $200-ish price point for the most entry-level based SKUs. And then, of course, as we move all the way into our flagship series SKUs, definitely the Maximus class series of boards you're going to be looking at over $500. But we'll touch on the price points respectively as we take a look at each one of these boards and kind of give you a little bit of visibility. So let me go ahead and first just throw some great looking footage here of one of the great boards that we've got within our lineup. While I go ahead and just double check and see if we've got any kind of immediate questions that I think might be of interest, guys. So give me one sec right here. And you guys can take a look at some of this beautiful B-roll of some of these fantastic looking boards there. Yep, no worries. I'm going to definitely be covering the Dash A board. So that's actually going to be the white DDR4 board that we're going to have in the ROG Strix lineup. So definitely don't worry. We will get you covered on as far as that board goes there. We will actually be talking about DIMM.2, so don't worry about that's going to be definitely on some of the higher end motherboards as well there. So no worries there. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump into this and kind of give you guys a little bit of a breakdown in terms of what's going to be new. So the first things I think first is maybe kind of giving a little bit of perspective in regards to the platform, right? When we're talking about this platform, what is kind of going to be new, what is going to kind of be different, and how do those things kind of play out respectively in terms of what you want to keep in mind if you're coming over from an older based platform. There are going to be a lot of kind of updates. So the first thing I think is going to be, of course, the CPU. We've got a brand new 12th gen series CPU and a brand new socket. And essentially that just means is that you're not going to have interoperability or compatibility. So if you've got an older generation platform, whether it's Intel or AMD, whether you're running Z590, X99, X299, Z170, whatever your platform might be, if you want 12th gen and you want any one of the CPUs that are going to be available, it will require an entirely new motherboard. So that is an important part. Another part is, of course, with these 12th gen series CPUs, they will support both DDR4 and DDR5. But again, it's really important to keep in mind that DDR4 motherboards will be different and not intercompatible with DDR5 modules. So you're going to make your commitment that when you pick your board, you're essentially going to be defining whether or not you want DDR4 or whether you want DDR5. Okay, so that is, I think, one of the most important elements to keep in mind. So if we go ahead and take a little bit of a closer look here, let's go ahead and bring up some information in terms of the kind of the core chipset. So here, guys, if you take a look at the actual chipset configuration, you'll see a little bit of a kind of a breakdown in terms of what you will expect in terms of how the actual Z690 platform looks. So we've got that 12th gen series CPU, which is going to provide to us the CPU cores, both our P cores and our E cores, along with the thread director, the memory controller, which is going to support DDR4 or DDR5. You're going to have PCIe Gen 5 support, as long as, of course, the motherboard fully supports that, and pretty much PCIe Gen 5 will be supported on across all the boards. And then you will also see supplemental support on certain models for PCIe M.2 Gen 5 support. While those drives don't yet exist, of course, that's really one of the exciting things about Z690 is that future support, right? And then, of course, you also have integrated UHD graphics based on Intel's latest Xe graphics architecture, which is quite impressive when you talk about integrated graphics performance. You've got that DMI 4-point link, which is essentially a high-speed interconnect between the CPU and the chipset, which is great to be able to have a fast link. And then, of course, your chipset, which is going to supply to us things like high-speed USB 3.Gen 2, optional Thunderbolt 4 support, your gigabit LAN, although on the vast majority of our boards, we're going to have 2.5 gigabit LAN, and then, of course, Wi-Fi 6 or Wi-Fi 6E. So that is giving you kind of that high level perspective on the chipset side. Now, one other item too that's going to be important that you want to keep in mind is going to be this CPU socket. Now, I talked about that this CPU socket is going to be a new CPU socket. So it's 1700, right? As opposed to the prior generation, which was 1200. Now, this means that we are going to have essentially a different class of CPUs in terms of physical dimensions. And this also could actually play out in terms of your cooler configurations. So the great thing that ASUS did, though, is that we are going to be offering you essentially interoperability and compatibility. The main reason being is that if we actually take a look at one of the sockets here, so let me go ahead and get a little bit tighter in here, guys, and I'll show you this. Give me 1 second to adjust this right here. So here you guys can see this is our TUF Gaming board, and you'll actually see that there are the holes. So this is generally where your bracket would go for for instance, your AI cooler or different things along those lines. You'll actually see that it's not one single hole. There's actually 2 mounting holes, and that's essentially due to allowing us to have interoperability with older coolers. So while the vast majority of manufacturers out there, including us for our coolers, are going to be releasing essentially a bracket that will allow you to have native socket 1700 support. If you've got a 1200 series cooler, you will be able to mount that on there. Now, you do want to consider that there could be some potential interoperability compatibility issues because of the height difference between the older CPUs and the newer CPUs. So that's just something to keep in mind. But you will be able to generally be able to install, as you see, like right here within our demo configuration, and be able to get up and running. So from a other kind of general perspective, in terms of kind of core things that you would want to keep in mind, not too many changes, right? You got your traditional motherboard power connections, your CPU power connections, M.2 slots, PCI slots, all those things are going to be maintained, but it's really kind of the wiring and the interconnects to a lot of those items that have really been bumped up in terms of bandwidth, performance, and functionality, right? So let me go ahead and just see if we got any questions on those points, and we will keep moving things along here. So give me 1 second. Wow, we've got tons and tons of questions. Fantastic, guys. Let me see right here, guys. So Emil, is there going to be a black version of the formula? We haven't got to our ROG Maximus boards that we'll be talking about, but this is an AMA, and I'm going to let you guys know, no, we do not have a black version of the formula. We've got a stunning white version of the formula board, and I know a huge amount of people are really excited about that. But if you want that premium black aesthetic, you're going to want to take a look at the Hero, you'll want to take a look at the Apex or the Extreme. Any one of those boards would definitely fit the mark. And we also still keep in mind, we have our ROG Strix series, which are also going to be kind of in that monochrome black aesthetic. Although the ROG boards have a little bit more of a premium full black silhouette, where the ROG Strix have a little bit, I'd say, more of a monochrome feel to them. Okay. Hey, Peskowitz, I'm not sure about your question on the Apex. If you want to go ahead and rethrow it in there, I'll go ahead and see if I can get to it. I didn't see your specific question, but feel free to go ahead and let me know. JC, fantastic, man. Thanks for getting your pre-order in for the Hero board, man, and thanks for being Team ROG. So Raphael, I would definitely say make sure to keep tuned. I can tell you that the performance is really impressive for this platform, including for the actual, not only the P cores, but the E cores. And overall, the overclocking capability is also going to be present on both of those cores, which interesting. We'll talk a little bit more about that. While we can't go into a full overclocking demo, that'll be coming in the future. Our AI OC technology will be able to actually apply per core overclocking to both E cores and P cores to be able to even be able to give you more performance. And really impressively is that you still are going to be able to fully leverage the effective and the efficient adaptive voltage policies. And I can tell you that you will be able to still even have a great OC experience, even with something traditional like 240 or 280 millimeter AIO cooler, like what you see right here with our Strix LC2 series. Hey Strider, that's a great point. All of these motherboards are going to be fully ready for Windows 10 and Windows 11. They will all ship with Windows 11 UEFI BIOSes out of the box ready, so you won't have to make any adjustments. You can essentially go about fully installing Windows 11 if you want to go with that route. But of course, if you're still on Windows 10, then you're not going to have any issues there. So really, the choice is going to be up to you. The demo system that I've gone ahead and tried out and configured, I've tried out both and they work fine. No issues in that regard. So yes, full Windows 10 and Windows 11 readiness. So is PCI Gen 5. So keep in mind that right now there is no PCI Gen 5 essentially device. There are no graphics cards. There's no M.2 based SSDs. So the PCI Gen 5 essentially readiness, where you're now moving up significantly in terms of the bandwidth, right? You're essentially doubling the bandwidth that is going to be available, is really being geared towards the next generation of graphics cards, as well as the next generation of storage-based devices. Now, critically, the great thing is that if you've got, of course, a current generation graphics card, or in prior generation, so you have a 1660, you've got a 2060, or you got a 3060, whatever you might have, your graphics card will be fully backwards compatible with the PCI Gen 5 interface. So it'll essentially just operate in the prior generation operating mode. So you don't have to be worried about, as far as that if it has PCI Gen 5, is something going to work or anything along those lines. One point that we'll get into, and we'll talk a little bit more though, is that certain boards will have different layout configurations, not for the primary PCI graphics card slot, but actually the M.2 slots, whether or not those will be wired to be able to support current generation PCI Gen 4, as well as PCI Gen 5. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. But rest assured, if you kind of really want the most, I'd say, future-proof configurations, you want the best performance possible, the ROG Maximus series are going to be the boards you're going to want to look at. Those will be featuring PCI Gen 5 for your graphics and for your M.2 SSDs. Okay. Okay, great. So let's go ahead and jump into the next part here and give you guys a little bit of a closer look specifically on these boards, right? So the first one I want to be able to touch on right here is going to be the Prime series. This is a fantastic looking series of motherboards. Let's go ahead and just give you guys a closer shot. And you guys can take a look here at this generation. So here we're going to have DDR4 and DDR5 based motherboards under the Prime series. For this generation, the Prime series really, I think, looks outstanding. Our design team really kind of looked to evoke and implement a feel that was based on kind of designs that you see in space. Whether you're talking about kind of uniforms of astronauts, whether you're talking about satellite installations, whether you're talking about concept designs of, rockets or things that exist in space, that was really our inspiration. And you have this really kind of nice design language that is present. And we'll take a little bit of a closer look at the Prime board, and you can really see, I think, how that calls out that feel. And it's a great looking series of boards. Now, the Dash A model will be reserved for DDR5. The Dash P, I think, is going to be one that a lot of people are going to be really excited about. It's going to be a board that generally we don't cover as much, but it will be offered both in DDR5 and DDR4. And you also saw there that we do have a micro ATX based board. So while a lot of people might be just looking at the 12900K, so that higher end, i9 part, keep in mind that this refresh for Alder Lake for 12th gen is going to be i5s, i7s, i9s, right? So you got the 12600K, 12700K, 12900K. And in this type of situation or configuration, you could really have a great kind of value experience by taking something like an i7 or i5 and putting that with like a Dash P, and still maybe even running DDR4, which would still offer really great efficiency, really great performance, and be able to get a great experience there. So again, we do have the Prime series here with, like I said, DDR4 and DDR5 in ATX and in micro ATX based versions. Okay, let me go ahead and bring up an image here, and we can go ahead and take a closer look at these boards. And I will do that. So let me load this guy up here. 1 second here, guys. Open up my images. Too many images here, guys. Sorry. Okay, here we go. All right, great, got it. Prime Series -A. Okay. Great, and let me just share this with you guys here. All right, guys. So here you can see we've got the -A board, and it's got a really nice, just beautiful, clean kind of design silhouette to it, right? You can see here just a little bit of that RGB lighting. Here, a little bit of kind of this nice translucent diffused material that's present on here. The super large and robust heat sinks that you're going to see here on the board. And also keep in mind that when we talk about the power delivery, even from the baseline, we're pretty much starting on all ATX boards at a minimum of 14 power stages and higher. As we get into higher end boards, you're even going to get to higher and higher performing power stages. We're going to continue the implementation of SPS based power stages on many of the premium motherboards that we're going to have, which are even more advanced than traditional power stages. But in the end, the important point that you want to keep in mind is whether stock or overclocked, you can feel confident in the overall performance of the boards. You're going to get a great stable experience. There's going to be very good thermal dissipation performance built into the heatsink assemblies and the overall VRM heatsink. So it's not something you need to worry about. If we take a closer look right here, right, of course, you've got your traditional power connections, you got your RGB headers. You'll see that we've got our QDIM design right here. So single latch makes it easy when you install the graphics card, traditional 24 pin. You've got your internal USB-C header. You've got, of course, your M.2, and you'll see all the M.2 pretty much on all the ATX boards. The minimum that you're going to see on most of our motherboards is going to be at least 3 M.2 SSDs, and all the way up to our highest end boards are going to give you 5 M.2 SSDs. So you're going to have tons of storage expansion support on these motherboards, and all of them will be featuring, of course, pretty much all will have M.2 heatsinks on them. Just depends to the extent of the number of drives that they have. So beyond that, you, of course, have the isolated audio design, what we call crystal sound on our Prime series of motherboards. And you also may not notice, but if you take a look here, the ARGB headers, one big update that we included, and it's kind of something that we continue to evolve from the prior generation, is that you have 4 RGB headers that is on this motherboard, and this would include 3 ARGB headers plus a legacy 4-pin header. You'll also see down here, while Thunderbolt doesn't come included on this board, all of these boards pretty much in the ATX lineup will all support Thunderbolt via our Thunderbolt add-in card. So if you want to be able to go ahead and take things further, you got that. Another nice addition for the -A, which is not something that's normally on there, is the implementation of a clear CMOS button. So this is also a nice little update that you will see on here, and you'll also see a power button on this board as well. Okay, so that gives you a little bit there of a closer look for the -A. And I want to show you now a little bit of a closer look on the motherboard and take a look at one of the design features, which some of you probably are familiar with in our previous generation with our Q-latch design for being able to easily install an M.2 based SSD. Hey, so that's a really great question. Right now, we don't have an ASUS, a PCIe Gen 4 riser cable, but we are working on one. Right now, we only officially have a Gen 3 riser cable, but we are looking to release one. And definitely, if you keep tuned to our social media channels, once we actually release that product, we'll definitely let you know. But there are great partners that are out there that have already gone ahead and produced, validated PCIe Gen 4 based riser cables. If you do want to go that route, generally I don't recommend riser cables. I do generally recommend horizontal GPU installation. It's the most stable, reliable, best thermal performance. It really is going to be the best experience. But if you do want to go with a vertical oriented look, definitely understand some people that want to go that route. Just make sure to do your due diligence and making sure that that riser cable has been validated, and hopefully that they have EMI testing completed to make sure that it has very good signal quality performance, because you don't want to lose any of the performance if you're enabling PCIe Gen 4 through a riser cable. All right. Yeah, so you're correct. That we're going to be talking about that board. Sorry about that. We're going to be talking about that board in a little bit, where Jay did take a look at our ProArt series. Now, keep in mind that the Prime series, just like this ProArt series motherboards, we don't necessarily focus these at gamers. These are focused at our prosumers, professionals, and creators. But we do get a lot of people that the look and design that we have on our ROG series can still definitely fit the bill for a creator because it offers a great foundation in terms of features and functions. But the Prime series would be a really good candidate for somebody that is looking for a creation-centric board along with our ProArt series. Okay, so I would say Funky is a pizza sandwich. No, a pizza is not a sandwich. All right, guys. So let's go ahead and take a closer look here at this Q latch design, guys. This is going to be pretty cool. If you guys haven't seen it, we're going to go ahead and use our ROG Strix board for this purpose, which we'll show kind of here in a little bit, but the fundamental design is pretty much the same. So give me 1 second to move these boards over, and we'll show you what we're talking about here, guys. All right. Should have that lined up for you. All right, here we go. All right, guys, so here you can see I've got the M.2 base SSD. I've gone ahead and removed the heatsink from this. Now, this would be the same on the Prime Series motherboard. No difference there, okay? But the cool thing is that if you'll notice, the screws are captive. So these screws, even when you go ahead and remove those from the actual corresponding standoff points, you notice that they won't fall off. So it just makes the installation experience that much easier for you guys, right? So here, if I go ahead and unlock that, you'll see there was no screws, there was nothing, right? But the great thing is here, you've got your M.2 base SSD. Now keep in mind that newer M.2 SSDs can potentially have NAND on both sides, and we'll talk a little bit later why this is important on some motherboards, which you'll see on this one, where there's actually a heatsink on the bottom, as well as there's a heatsink on the top. So you're actually making dual contact, right? But if you'll see right here, all I need to do is just angle my M.2 SSD in there. Once I go ahead and lay that in place, I just take that latch mechanism and I move it down, and now the M.2 SSD is locked in place. No screws, so I don't need to install some type of standoff. I don't have to have some small screw that I can potentially lose or drop. I don't have to have a precision tip screwdriver, ideally that's been magnetized. You don't have to worry about any of that. Just angle in the drive, lock it in there, then put back on your heatsink, and you're good to go. So that is a really great feature, and you're going to pretty much see this design throughout all of our motherboards that we're going to be talking about. They will all feature that M.2 Q latch design implementation to just help to improve the experience. So we're going to be definitely touching on some of these things where we've put in quite a number of our Q design technologies on here. So that would include things like our Q LED, which are diagnostic LEDs, our Q latch for M.2. We've had the improvement of the Q shield with many of the motherboards like you see here on the Dash A that have an integrated IO shield, which not only makes your installation experience easier, right, but helps to reduce things like EMI and ESD. So that's also going to be an improvement, right? And even other things like I said, QDIM, where you can see down here, the actual memory latches are only on one side. Actually, I can probably show you a little bit more closely here if I go back to this board, where you can see that here, you've got latches at the top, but if you notice, we don't put latches down here at the bottom. So it's a single-sided locking design. So that's QDIM. And then here we, of course, have Q release, which is brand new, right? Now, that's not going to be on the Prime series. I don't want to get to that. That's a pretty awesome feature, and I'm going to show you that in a moment. But I want to make sure that nobody else had any other questions before we get over to the next series on the Prime series of motherboards. And again, guys, this is just a little bit of general AMA. Like I said, in the coming week, next week and a half, we're going to have dedicated live streams on just each individual model. We're going to dive into every single aspect of these boards. But here I wanted to give you kind of a high-level perspective of the new series and kind of some of the really cool features that we're introducing. Okay, so give me 1 second here, guys. Just want to double check, make sure that there's no questions that I might want to try to get to. And big thanks to Juno from our team. If you see any responses from Juno, that is actually one of my colleague members. She's actually on our product marketing team for motherboards. She's helping to answer your guys' questions in there. So Fantastic. And in case anybody is wondering about price point on the Dash A board, this is going to be coming in at $299 is going to be the Dash A. The Dash P model is going to be $249 for the Wi-Fi version, and then the non-Wi-Fi version $229. And then you'll even go all the way down to $219 if you're taking a look at the DDR4 base versions. So again, let me go ahead and show you guys just one more time in case anybody was wondering about those different models for the Prime Series lineup. So again, here we've got the Micro ATX, the ATX with the P and the Dash A. So Dash A will start all the way at $219, goes up to the Dash A, which is going to be at $299. And if you do want to go with Micro ATX, let me go ahead and see if I can double check the price there for you on that one. Give me 1 second, guys. Price point on the Micro ATX will be $189. Okay, guys? All right, so next up, let's go ahead and maybe... Hey, Emil, we're going to be jumping into ROG in a little bit, so just stay tuned. We'll go ahead and work our way up. I want to try to kind of keep it balanced in terms of from a pricing perspective, starting off from, I think, our more cost accessible models, and then we'll move up into the highest end tier motherboards because they will carry the most in terms of their overall price point, right? All right, guys. So next, let's go ahead and take a look here at the ProArt series. All right. This is beautiful motherboard here with the ProArt series, guys. You can see it's got a really nice, clean design aesthetic. This is pretty much black throughout with just some light gold accents. It has a really premium, actually, I/O shroud right over here that's a bit translucent. Very beefy power delivery design. This is actually board is going to be featuring our SPS power stages. Those are smart power stages, even more advanced than what we're going to have on other motherboards. Take, for instance, like on the Prime series. And this is only going to be offered in an ATX-based version. And this board will come with DDR5. Some of the real key kind of call outs that you'll have on this motherboard, we'll take some closer shots here in a moment, but you're going to have 10 gigabit LAN, you're going to have integrated Thunderbolt, and you're going to have massive amounts of M.2, where you can see here I've got M.2, M.2, and then over here there's another set of M.2. So 4 M.2 that are stacked onto this board. And I'll put this one under the secondary shot so you guys can take a closer look. But let me go ahead and show you guys this board a little bit in closer shot here. So here you guys can see the ProArt motherboard. Fantastic looking motherboard. I absolutely love the design aesthetic on here. And again, this is really going to be centered for those of you that are maybe doing, content creation, doing videography, photography, 3D animation, CAD work, maybe, a digital audio workstation. Or of course, you could 100% use this still for gaming if you just like the aesthetic, right? There's no reason you're limited. The main differential that you're going to have when you go over to some of our gaming motherboards is that they will also come with specialized designs and maybe software suites that have also been enhanced that are really kind of for gamers first and foremost. Whereas some of the supplemental software, take for instance, that we have on the ProArt series where it comes with the ProArt Creator Hub, really is most beneficial to creators, okay? So let me go ahead and put this board a little bit closer look on the second cam, and you guys can actually see some of the cool elements that are going to be on this motherboard. So let me go ahead and move over our Strix board. Switch this guy over here, and we'll show you some of the cool things that we've got here on this board. Let's go ahead and get our second cam back in place right here. All right, great, guys. Let's go ahead and take a closer look. So you can see now really much more closely what I was talking about, where you've got this kind of really, really clean design aesthetic that's on this board, where you can see that you've got that nice translucent I/O shroud, massive VRM heat sinks that are right here. And rest assured, this board is going to definitely be able to keep your CPU stable, well cooled in terms of the VRM when it's under load. So no questions right there. Again, DDR5 is going to be present on this board. One interesting thing that you might notice right here is that if you see you've got a 24-pin power motherboard connection, and then you got your internal USB-C header. So that's not necessarily anything special. But what's very interesting is right here, you'll actually notice that there's a 6-pin PCI Express power connection. Well, why would we have that? The reason why is because many of our higher end motherboards are going to feature Quick Charge 4.0 support for this internal front header with compatible chassis. So this will give you significantly more power through this port to be able to support quick charging on many new devices. So if you've got a device that supports advanced PPD quick charging, then you can go ahead and plug in the power for that and then be able to get that wired in for there. So that is a pretty cool feature. When you take a look here where you saw M.2 heatsink, another M.2 heatsink, and another M.2 heatsink. Well, this is a dual. So there's literally one M.2 SSD that can fit here, and then another M.2 SSD that can fit here. You've got 8 SATA ports that are also on this board, and you can see a lot of PCIe slot expansion. Something you also might not realize is that these slots are brand new. We've always had our slave slot PCIe design, but these are brand new now using SMT production, which is the same type of advanced production we've used on our graphics cards. This allows for even more rigidity and better quality production within these slots to even further reduce strain on the slot. So along with what we call our injection molded design, which integrates the actual metal into the actual slot itself, you get really, really strong performance across all 3 axes. And that just means that you essentially get less torsion when you install the graphics card in there. It stays really nice and stable. We have a full isolated audio design path that's also on this board. So you're going to have very, very good quality audio for your music, your movies, your games, your editing workflow, whatever it might be. And then here on the back IO, which I can bring up a shot for you guys, but let me see if I can show you right there. You can see that you've got your 2.5G LAN, you've got your 10 gig LAN, you've got your integrated Thunderbolt, all built on there to the back of the motherboard, right? And then of course you also have your Wi-Fi 6E for ultra fast Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. Now keep in mind, one thing that you do want to note is that when it comes to a Wi-Fi 6E, you do have to have a Windows 11 system, and you do have to have a Wi-Fi 6E based router to be able to support that. If you are not running a Wi-Fi 6E router and you have a Wi-Fi 6 router, you can still get great performance, but you won't get all the benefits of Wi-Fi 6E. And if you're running Windows 10, even if you have a Wi-Fi 6E router and a Wi-Fi 6E based motherboard, you still will not get the full experience. You have to run Windows 11. So one just note for you guys there. Let me go ahead and just take a look and see if we've got any other questions that might be specific to the ProArt. Hey, Lana, see reviews, fantastic. So yes, so the Q latch design that we had that we demoed right there, pretty much all the motherboards down to even the dash A, dash P, we're going to offer the actual Q latch design for the M.2 SSDs. There's going to be a new Q release feature that I'm going to be showing on our ROG series motherboards shortly here that will be limited to the ROG Strix as well as the Maximus series boards, the ROG Maximus series. But yes, the actual M.2 design implementation, you will see that on pretty much all the motherboards. Hey, Rafi, in terms of keyboards, if somebody's wondering, we're focusing on motherboards right here, but why not? Let's go ahead. And this is an AMA, right? So this is our ROG Falchion. So this is an ultra compact keyboard, 65%. It's USB-C along with 2.4 gigahertz low latency wireless. And it is a fantastic compact keyboard. It's even got a cool integrated touch panel right there to be able to customize things like custom macros, volume adjustments like that. Very, very nice keyboard. This keyboard right here, this is our ROG Scope TKL. So this is going to be a little bit larger, but still no numpad right there. And this also features a USB-C connection. If you're interested in any of the peripherals recently that we've talked about or shown off right here, including these cool mice that I'm also using, check out our recent live streams that are on Facebook and YouTube where we've dived into specifically these products so you can find out all the ins and outs. Hey, Emil, we're going to be getting to ROG in a little bit, so no worries right there. Okay, very, very cool. So let's go ahead and keep moving along. Let me go ahead and get you guys the price point on the ProArt board. And again, we'll give you guys one more shot there for that ProArt board. This is the board that we're currently talking about. Again, will be a DDR5 base board and ATX base board, right? Okay. And the ProArt will be coming in at $479, okay? $479 for the ProArt series. Okay, so next, I want to go ahead and talk about TUF Gaming. So let me go ahead and move over my ProArt board right here. And again, if you guys have any questions, any of the models that I didn't answer, because like I said, I'm just giving them a little bit more of a general kind of overview on any of these things, feel free and let me know. So TUF Gaming series, one important distinction is that for TUF Gaming, we will only offer these in a DDR4 version. And part of the strategy behind that was that TUF Gaming really is kind of our focus to entry-level ASUS gaming motherboards. While entry, sometimes maybe people have a misconception that that means lower end. That's definitely not the case. These boards are built to be stable, reliable, have a great overclocking experience, have really solid features and functions for gamers and enthusiasts, have a really nice clean design, and really some nice attention to detail points, I think, in terms of not only the ID design, but the thermal dissipation design in terms of the heatsink assembly. But we essentially just pull back on some of the more advanced features and functions. So what do we mean by advanced features and functions? An example might be if we compare this to an ROG Maximus series board, the ROG Maximus board is going to have an ultra high-end VRM heatsink, which is even larger, more dense, and has a heat pipe. Here on the TUF Gaming board, instead of necessarily having something like a heat pipe, you're going to have an ultra large VRM heatsink that extends not only in this portion right here, but all from the actual I/O shroud. So all of this and all of this are full aluminum, large finned heatsinks. That's going to be very, very good thermal performance. The performance on the Hero will even be better, but it's not necessarily a limitation. You're still going to be able to overclock an i5 and i7 and i9 on this board. But if you just were somebody that was a little bit more critical, wanted even lower temps, think about it kind of like from going from like a 240 millimeter AIO to a 360 millimeter AIO. That's kind of the difference. Another area that you could see a little bit of difference would be in something like the audio design on the motherboard. This features TUF Gaming isolated audio design. It's good quality, nice improvement in terms of standard motherboard audio. You're still going to get a nice punch in music, movies, and games. But if we take a look at something like the Maximus class, that's going to come with our Supreme Effects audio design, which features an even higher end audio codec and an ES-Saber DAC and amp built onto the motherboard. So yeah, there's a difference in that regard. There could also be things like custom water cooling headers that we have built onto the motherboard. But if you're not custom water cooling, you don't necessarily need a board that has that feature or function. So the goal really with TUF Gaming is to try to give you a board that has been balanced at really being a great foundational board where it kind of has everything that you want from key specification standpoint, right? But doesn't necessarily introduce more advanced features and functions, which if you're not using as a user, you would potentially be paying for. So we want to try to give you the most board that we can at an aggressive price point, right? So let's go ahead and show you guys this board here, TUF Gaming, a little bit closer look in terms of a photo. Sorry, right there. So here you can see the TUF Gaming, and this does introduce the brand new ID design that we introduced for Z590, now continuing into Z690, and you're seeing this ID design being rolled into everything across TUF Gaming accessories and other products. So our new TUF Gaming LC coolers have the same ID design. Our TUF Gaming graphics cards has this ID design. Everything that will be coming out will all feature this new ID design. So it'll be really complementary. So for those TUF Gaming enthusiasts out there, if you want a TUF Gaming monitor, TUF Gaming peripherals, cooler, motherboard, graphics card, kind of tie it all together, it's going to be a really nice cohesive look, very similar to the same type of experience that ROG users have had. So great foundation right there. Let me just see any questions right there. Okay, great, guys. So let's go ahead and take a little bit of a closer look here at the TUF Gaming model. I think we'll go ahead and take a little bit of a closer look in terms of some of the base images, and then I will go ahead and also put it under our secondary cam and show you some of these points right here. So give me 1 second. And open it up here. Here we go. Perfect. All right, guys. Okay, so here you guys can see we've got the board, right? And again, this entire section right here, this is all a massive VRM heatsink. You can see those dense fins. It continues our what's called dual contact design, which means that these VRM heatsinks are making contact with the inductors right here, the chokes, as well as the power stages, which are underneath the board. And again, this board is not going to have any problems in terms of being able to be very stable and reliable, whether you're running stock or overclocked. You can run an i5, i7, i9, no problems here. You got your ARGB header over here, along with your legacy RGB header, your DDR4 slots that are on this board. Right here is the QLED lighting tech, right? So a diagnostic LED for the CPU, for the DRAM, for the graphics card, and for the boot device, an internal USB-C header, your traditional USB 3 header right there. You can see that we've integrated a little bit of RGB accent lighting that's on here. We've got then the safe slot design right here, your M.2 primary SSD slot right here, and then another 2 sets right here. So you can see quite a number of actually M.2 SSD slots, right? So you've got one right here with a heatsink, a larger one which will actually support 2 M.2 SSDs, and then you can see another M.2 SSD slot here. So quite a bit of M.2 expansion available to you. The TUF Gaming isolated audio design, which is present on this board. Your remaining then ARGB headers right there for connecting your fans, LED strips, chassis, whatever it is that you are going to be looking for. So you are good to go in terms of all your connections, right? And let me go ahead. I think we do have the I/O. Yeah, so right here, you can see what you're also seeing on the rear I/O, multi-channel audio, optical output, Wi-Fi 6 along with Bluetooth, super speed USB-C right here, 2.5 gigabit LAN, your high speed 10 gigabit USB 3.2, more USB 3 high speed USB 3, another Type-C 10 gigabit, and then HDMI and DP. So quite a good stack in terms of the I/O connectivity on this board. And pricing on this board is, give me 1 second, and I will let you guys know. So on the TUF Gaming, we're going to be looking on for the Wi-Fi plus gaming Wi-Fi is going to be $289. So very reasonable price point. If you remember, that's actually going to be $10 less than the Prime board. So remember right here, I showed you guys the Prime will be coming in at $299. Okay, but versus the TUF Gaming board, which will be coming in at $289. Okay, so that is going to be TUF Gaming. Let me go ahead and move this out right here. Give me 1 second, guys. Okay, great. Okay, so we've got now TUF Gaming that recaps Prime series, where we're going to have micro ATX and ATX, DDR4 and DDR5, TUF Gaming, which can only come in DDR4 and being ATX, and then ProArt, which is going to be DDR5 and ATX. So now let's get into what I know a lot of you guys are super excited about, which is going to be the ROG series of motherboards that we have. And here we're going to first touch on the ROG Strix series. So ROG Strix will have one DDR4 board, and then we're also going to have DDR5 motherboards for the vast majority of the Strix series. And on top of that, for the Strix series, we've got all the form factors. We've got mini ITX, we've got micro ATX, and we've got ATX. So let me switch this back. I'm going to end up switching back to this board again in a second, just because I'm going to want to go closer on it. But I'm just going to bring this one back here. And actually, let me quickly put this heatsink back on there, because I think this board even looks better when we put the heatsink on there. So 1 second, guys. I'm just going to put this heatsink on, and I will also take a look and see if we see any questions right there. So give me 1 second. Ryujin 2, no worries, guys. The Ryujin 2 will be actually coming out next month. So in alignment essentially with Z690 and the new 12th Gen series CPUs, we are going to be releasing all of our new updated coolers. So that includes the Ryujin 2 and the remaining Strix LC2 series coolers and the TUF Gaming LC2 series coolers. So you will be seeing the Ryujin 2 coming out next month, okay? So no worries there. All right, got that heatsink installed right there. All right, so let's go ahead and now take a look here at the ROG Strix series. I've got a pretty cool image right here, I think, to show you guys all of the ROG Strix series motherboards. So let me load that up for you guys 1 second here. Oh, there we go. I've got it right here. All right. And here we go. Let's show you guys here what we are releasing for Strix. So here you guys can see ROG Strix series, where we've got the Z690-I, Z690-F, Z690-E, Z690-A, and then Z690-G. So very, very stacked series of motherboards across the lineup. And for those of you kind of wondering about what are we talking about when we talk about ROG Strix, this is really kind of where we hit the sweet spot, what we think is really kind of a board that's been purpose-built for those of you that are definitely gamers. You're enthusiasts in terms of overclocking, you're into maybe water-cooled builds, you're into a little bit of everything. You really do want kind of more premium set of features. You want improvements in terms of audio, networking, the number of connections, expansion, you know, an improvement even in the kind of the look and the feel and the RGB aesthetics that are going to be present on here. So that's where we really try to pump things up and move them up from the TUF Gaming series. Every single aspect of the ROG Strix series will be higher end than the TUF Gaming series. So unquestionably, across the board, you're going to see improvement in that regard. So let's go ahead and first touch on one of the really cool design aspects that is going to be present on this board. And that's going to be actually something that is right here. So you might not think this is a big deal. You might not even be able to really see it yet, but this is a little button. So, you know, something again that we talked about is going to be our Q design philosophy, trying to make things easier and simpler when it comes to the PCDIY build experience. So we showed you guys the really cool design implementation that we had for the M.2 release. Well, we've got a new one, and this one is going to be called Q release instead of Q latch. Okay. So let's go ahead and take a look and see what this looks like here. So, oh, sorry guys. There we go. All right. So we've got our board laid out right here, and I'm going to go ahead and grab my graphics card here in a second. So let me grab my graphics card. And if you see right here, I've got a graphics card. Now here's your PCIe graphics slot, right? Now this slot is actually another innovation from ASUS. We did this years ago before anybody else, and we actually made the slot wider. And we did that so that you could actually have easier access to pushing the slot down here at the bottom or down at the top to help to eject the graphics card, right? But the reality is the graphics card have even become bigger, and based on kind of configuration and layout requirements, it can still sometimes be a challenge. So let's go ahead and put this in. So we've got our graphics card installed, right? Now here, I could attempt to go ahead and take my finger, maybe angle it in there, push that down, right? Let me see if I can get it pushed down in there. And I might be able to push it down and be able to eject it, but it could definitely be a little bit more tricky. Well, the cool thing is right here, you see that there's an actual button. Well, all I need to do is just push down on this button. Once you push on this button, you will actually be able to eject the graphics card. So let me go ahead and show that for you. Show you that again, guys. So I'm just going to take the graphics card, install it in there. Once it's installed, just go ahead and have to press that button. Once I press the button, it will then allow me to go ahead and remove the graphics card. So a really, really cool design implementation, and that's going to be something that you'll see pretty much starting up on the Strix series and then moving into our higher end series of motherboards. What do you guys think about that? Pretty cool? I would definitely agree, Raphael. That's a very smart design in terms of this implementation. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of the other kind of design accents. One here, you can see this is the white version of the motherboard. This will be the only board within the Strix lineup that we have that features a DDR4 as opposed to DDR5. So you do want to keep that in mind, but it's got a really nice, clean design aesthetic, which you can see on this motherboard, right? You've got all the, of course, M.2 heat sinks, premium heat sinks right here as well throughout. And you'll also see right here, this is using our new acrylic display. And so we'll show you guys some photos right here that really helps to elevate the overall look and feel when we talk about the RGB lighting that is going to be on the motherboard, okay? So very, very nice design aesthetic. Now, one thing right here I want to show you that you might not realize is that this is pretty cool. So it might just look like something that's minimal, but one of the things we've been playing around with has been adding a little bit more texture and kind of design language to our motherboards, as well as kind of what you can do with some of the included items. And so this is actually an integrated cable wrap. So you can actually open it up and take, for instance, like if you installed the graphics card, maybe you wanted to run the cable down and just kind of wire it down there and hold it in place. You actually be able to go ahead and just run your cables directly there. But you can also see that we've gone ahead and given you a screw. So you can remove this, take this off, and then you could have your own little kind of custom Join the Republic cable wrap that comes included with your board, so that if you want to add that in a specific other area to add a little bit of kind of stylized, accent to your build, that comes included with the motherboard. So that is a pretty cool design implementation that we do have there. So that is going to be one of the other like nice little touches that you might not necessarily realize is on the board, but has also been added in. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and do a little bit of a visual tour in terms of the photographs. Take a look at some of the other design elements right here, and we will keep moving things along. But I do have quite a number of boards here, and the Dash I alone, along with the Dash G, are some boards that we do want to spend a little bit of time to show you on, because they are really doing some really cool stuff in terms of offering you really, really high level of performance, but in compact board design. Okay, so let me go ahead and load up the images here for the Dash A board, and we'll take a look at some of the other Strix boards as well. So let's first take a look at, we'll first look at the Dash A, and then we'll move into the DDR4 boards. So let me get that opened up here. Yep, here we go. All right, great guys. And let's take a look right here. All right, so here you can see we've got the board, and that's that really cool, what we call acrylic display, where you can see it's got the design language, which has a little bit of an edgier feel to it because it uses our cybertext and our cyberpunk kind of design aesthetic, which is part of ROG. You can still see those large beefy VRM heat sinks, which also still maintain full dual contact, not only on the power stages, but also on the inductors. Of course, we've got our ProCool power connectors, which were on the other boards. You don't have any concerns or requirements there in terms of ensuring stable and reliable power. The QLED, the ARGB headers. This board does feature OptimM2, so keep in mind that you're still going to be getting our advanced memory topology for being able to tweak and tune and have outstanding DDR4 overclocking capability. And on select higher-end boards, we will also have for DDR3, take for instance like on our Extreme or on our Apex boards, even for DDR5. You got your USB-C header, front USB 3 there as well. There's that button that we talked about there for the actual Q release technology. M.2 heatsink, which of course I already showed you guys, that is a dual contact heatsink design for the bottom and for the top. That safe slot PCIe redesign that we have also gone ahead and implemented. Your little cool little cable tie. Tons of fan headers that are also all sprinkled throughout the board. The Thunderbolt header, if you did want to add a Thunderbolt to the card, and then your remaining RGB headers that are also on there. And here you can see a big update from the TUF Gaming side is going to be here, the Supreme Effects audio. And I'll touch on kind of what the difference is for Supreme Effects audio compared to kind of TUF Gaming grade audio. And here's your rear I/O for kind of reference. You can see your multi-channel audio output, Type-C, Wi-Fi 6 with Bluetooth, 2.5 gigabit LAN, more USB 3, another Type-C, 20 gigabits, which you'll see that is an improvement right there. So we got 20 gigabits on the rear, right? And then tons of USB right there. You've got more USB, and then DisplayPort and HDMI, along with the clear CMOS button. And that's a little bit rarer. We don't generally usually have offered in the past the clear CMOS also on the Dash A series. So that is another kind of minor upgrade that you might have not realized, but is also on the board. And before we get into the DDR5 versions, I do want to just give you guys the quick price point on that board. So the Dash A is going to be coming in at $349. So here we're going to now move into the Dash F and the Dash E. And for the Dash F and the Dash E, these are going to be DDR5 versions. Okay. So do keep in mind that these are, of course, going to be different memory. So you would, of course, have to be running a different configuration, right? So if you're going to get the CPU is the same, but you're going to need to get DDR5 memory for the Dash E, for the Dash F, for the Dash I, and for the Dash G. Or the Dash A, you can still utilize the legacy DDR4, okay? So give me 1 second here, guys, to just get this shot again here for you. And we will show you, we'll show you one more time. We're going to go to the Dash E and the Dash F. So again, we're taking a look now at kind of the classic ROG Strix series boards and the ATX, and then we're going to go into the small form factor boards, Dash G and Dash I. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look here at the Dash F. I don't have that board here with me on hand, so I'm going to bring up the image for you guys, and we'll take a little bit of a closer look here. All right, great. Got the board loaded up here. And I will take a look right now for any questions if you guys have noted anything as well, okay? So here you can see Dash F, really cool design aesthetic, right? Again, has that acrylic design that we have over the I/O shroud. Very large and very robust VRM heatsinks. Overall topology and kind of layout is going to look very similar to the Dash A board, except essentially going to be in this kind of monochrome black aesthetic. And you'll also still see, you also still have that little cable wrap that's in there. I really love some of these little small touches, Control Plus, WASD, that's on there, right? The little Strix design language, all these kind of little cool design elements. You can even see things where we put something over the actual clear CMOS button, but really nice looking board. Right. And I'll touch on the specific differences here in a moment, guys. Let me go ahead and just go through these set of images right here. Give you a little bit of an angle. And here again, you can see the kind of the mass and the size of the VRM heatsinks. And again, where I was talking about that, this is a full dual contact design. So it is making contact with all the power stages and all the inductors. And this is also our brand new revised antenna design. So it's a more stable design and optimally been tuned, where you'll see this is actually Wi-Fi 6E, which is an upgrade compared to the prior boards that we touched on, which were going to be Wi-Fi 6. And here's your rear I/O. Very similar in terms of the rear I/O, just a little bit different. But again, you can see big upgrade when you move over to 6 is that 20 gigabits Type-C on the rear. And then we also got that clear CMOS, right? And in case you kind of wanted to see, even our design language goes and extends to the back of the motherboard, which I think is pretty cool. And this is actually pretty nice for you to see, where you can actually see the full isolation path. This is the essentially the audio moat design that we have, which separates the audio layers between the traditional PCB layers on the motherboard. Okay, very, very cool. Now, the Dash E, when we move up to the Dash E will kind of distinguish itself in a few different ways in terms of kind of being a higher end board. One of the big value propositions you're going to get by moving up to the Dash E will be that this board will also support M.2 PCIe Gen 5 for the M.2 based SSD configuration. So that is going to be a difference you want to keep in mind. The power delivery design will also be different, with the Dash E having 18 teamed power stages versus the Dash F having 16 power stages, which is going to be the same as the Dash A. But even then, like I said, regardless, the performance is very, very high end. In terms of overall what you can expect from overclocking, it will be stable and reliable. And the HDMI output configurations, which I didn't touch on earlier, but in case you're wondering about, all of them do feature HDMI 2.1 support. And as you probably saw there, I did show you the Thunderbolt 4 header that is present on these boards as well. And for the audio design on all of those, the big update here is going to be the inclusion of the ALC 4000 series audio codec, so the ALC 4080. along with the SavvyTech amp. And so this is actually quite a bit of an upgrade compared to prior generations where you commonly saw the S12220 audio codec. So this is all we're going to offer you better performance. It's better detail, better signal noise ratio. If you've got a good, decent pair of headphones or headset or definitely speakers, that's really one of the nice things about is the better quality audio design that you're also going to be getting when you take a look at a Strix series board. So keep in mind that this audio upgrade is going to be present across the board. So on the Dash E, the Dash F, the Dash A, the Dash G, and the Dash I, they will all feature the ALC 4080 and the SavvyTech amp based implementation. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look here at the Dash E. And I'm going to also just take a look and see if we have any questions that might have popped up in there. So LAN, you're going to be seeing that this is Intel, and it's the latest generation revision of Intel's 2.5 gigabit LAN implementation. As we get into some of the higher end motherboards, those will be also featuring even higher, gigabit class networking configuration. So you'll see like on models like we had with the ProArt, or if you go into like the Extreme board, we'll have 10 gigabit LAN. But pretty much the baseline, I think, except for one model down in the ATX stack, pretty much everything going up from like Dash A and above is all 2.5 gigabit LAN and higher. And pretty much almost all the boards all have Wi-Fi, with the baseline being Wi-Fi 6, and then the higher end boards having Wi-Fi 6E. Okay. Hey, Dave, thanks for joining us, man. Hope you're doing safe, staying healthy. Fantastic for joining us here, and happy to have you here, man. Thank you so much. Hey, Will, so we did touch on that. That 6-pin connector that's next to that 24-pin connector on the motherboard is specifically for an advanced quick charge implementation. So on the motherboards that have that auxiliary 6-pin connector, we essentially allow for more power to be supplied through the internal USB-C header. And so that internal USB-C header will be able to support essentially quick charge 4 protocol. So if you're somebody that will actually maybe plug your devices into the front of your chassis, that is where you can actually take a benefit. And it's a really cool feature, but again, you want to keep in mind that your device and your chassis do have to support that. Glad to see Wi-Fi 6E. Yeah, Wi-Fi 6E is a fantastic specification. I can tell you that when you pair it with something like our Rapture series or Wi-Fi 6E series routers that we do have, you can legitimately see significantly over 1,000 megabits. You can see over gigabit wireless throughput, extremely low latency. It's really, really impressive when you talk about their performance. And also keep in mind that I'm going to be also getting into a really cool feature that we have when it comes to DDR5 in a little bit once we finish up the boards, where we talk about a new function that we have, which is called AEMP, which is essentially allowing us to kind of work around some of the limitations of the PMIC that is implemented. So traditionally on DDR5, you're going to actually have XMP, a new XMP memory specification has been implemented for DDR5 that will lock in certain operating parameters because the voltage regulation is built onto the memory. But we'll be talking about how ASUS is continuing our tradition of really kind of offering best performance tuning attributes through things like AIOC and through AEMP if you're really looking to kind of take performance to the next level. But we're not there yet. Let me go ahead and bring up here the Dash E board. Okay. So here we've got the Dash E. Great looking board, and for many, this is kind of like a benchmark board. It's a very already high-end motherboard in terms of kind of its core feature set and functionality, right? So really nice, clean, again, acrylic-based RGB lighting implementation, that robust team power array that we talked about, right, with the dual contact heat sinks that are present on the board. You can see, of course, the ARGB headers, of course, the safe slot QDIMM design. This board does upgrade to a QLED implementation, though. So if you're a little bit more of an enthusiast tweaker and tuner and you want the actual debug readout versus your traditional 4 LED implementation that we have, that is a nice kind of upgrade right there. You got your internal USB-C header. You've got, of course, your traditional front USB 3. You got your SATA ports. Here you can see a massive M.2 heatsink, which actually uses a specialized design, which with a heat pipe to even offer more thermal dissipation performance, right? You got that new SMT produced safe slot design for your graphics card, along with the Q release, right, to be able to easily access the graphics card, be able to remove it. that new high quality Supreme effects with that ALC 4080 audio codec and that Savitech amp. The remaining RGB headers, that Thunderbolt header that is also on there, right? And of course, you can see your fan headers that are on all sprinkled throughout the board there. So pretty straightforward, right? Let me go ahead and pull this back here. You can check it out there at an angle. And you can see here, we go even to a little bit more of a stacked IO configuration. So let's go ahead and pull up this next shot, which is, this is pretty cool. So remember when we talked about that on M.2, right? Pretty much the baseline is going to be at least 3, and then our highest end boards will support either then 4 or 5. This board actually comes included with our Hyper M.2 add-in card. So this is our new add-in card. It's very, very cool. It plugs into that slot, and then we'll give you 2 additional M.2 slots. Now, keep in mind, this board is also unique in that it supports PCIe Gen 5 M.2 in a single slot, okay? And whereas all the other boards in terms of the ATX boards like the Dash A and the Dash F will give you PCIe Gen 4 M.2, but not PCIe Gen 5 M.2. And here you can see that we've removed that cover right there, and then you've got your 2 slots to be able to go ahead and add in your additional M.2 SSDs. Okay. All right. Let me go ahead and pull that back. Let me double check there because I know I broke down a lot of information, and I also want to show you guys, again, that little card that comes included with the, that comes included with the board. So this is right here. This is the Hyper M.2 add-in card. So it's a really nice, clean, cool card. Has a very beefy, this whole thing, this is a full metal heatsink, okay, with fins on it. It's very beefy. I'll give it to you on a little secondary close-up cam right there, but that will come included in the box, right? So if you love your M.2, bam, you've got this guy included, and it's really sleek. It looks really nice. Another little addition that you guys might have not seen in there, but will also come included is this little guy. It's small. You might not even realize this is a GPU standoff. So it actually will allow you to go ahead, and if you really are critical about sag and you don't want any card sag, well, just go ahead and mount this in the side of the chassis. You can lock it into place and tighten it up, and then you've got a really nice little cool included, essentially anti-sag bracket that it comes included inside of the box. Let me go ahead and get this card underneath the secondary cam here, and you guys can take a little bit of a closer look at it. All right, guys, let me brighten that up for you there. All right, so we'll take a look right here. There you guys go. You can see here we've got this a cool little design, and very, very nice. Like I said, this is a full metal heatsink right there. You've got your thermal pads right there. It's very dense, okay? And right there, you can see, if I wanted to go ahead and install my M.2 SSD, just slot it in there, lock it in, and you are good to go. So that will come with the Dash E board. And you'll also see a more specialized version of this on the ROG Maximus series motherboards, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. And here is the standoff that I was talking about. You can see right there, it's got a nice little soft touch finish. And you can go ahead and adjust it right there in terms of the height. So you can see right here, there's a screw for you to lock it down if you needed to, right? But you can adjust its length and then prop it up, and you're good to go. So that is the Dash E. So let me run down the price points there. I'll double check on anybody's questions that might have come up for those boards. And we're going to show now the micro ATX and the mini ATX. I know these, I'm really, really excited about these guys. And some of the stuff that we're doing on the mini ATX side is really, again, super, super innovative and just next level, and really shows why when it comes to ROG boards, we really do set the benchmark. Nobody's coming close. So for the Dash E, it will be at $469. The Dash F will be at $399. The Dash A will be at $349, and we're going to be getting into the Dash G and the Dash I. So again, $349, $399, and $469. Okay, so that is where you're coming in at for those respective price points. Okay, let me go ahead and double check here and just see what questions we might have. And one thing I do also want to note, some people do wonder about ROG series boards also all do feature in North America our APS warranty service. That means that they include essentially advanced RMA options if we do have those boards in stock and inventory, which can be an advantage for some users, as you don't have to go through the normal RMA process. You can essentially request an advanced RMA for your board if we have it in inventory and can be processed that way. A credit card is put on file and we'll send you out the replacement board. So all ROG class boards do offer APS warranty coverage. So, sorry, which question are you asking about? On what will the Hero have? If you can go ahead and confirm for me. If you can let me know, what was it you're wondering about as far as which question or which specific aspect? But pretty much I will tell you, for the most part, anything that you just saw on the Strix series boards that I talked about is going to be on the ROG Maximus series. ROG Maximus, pretty much across the board, any feature or function or design attribute, we always try to pretty much upgrade any one of those aspects or give you the same exact thing, if not upgraded, when you move over to a Maximus board. So there won't be any scenarios on an ROG Strix series where you would have better spec or features or functions or items that would be on an ROG Strix compared to an ROG Maximus series motherboard. Okay. In terms of the white one, we will have this one right here is going to be the ROG Strix Z690-A, which is a DDR4 board. Okay. Another white one that we have right here is the Prime series Z690-A. Okay. And we're going to be touching on our new white introduction in just a little bit when we get to the ROG Maximus series with the brand new white Maximus Z690 formula board, which is stunning. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and get in. Yes, so if you're asking about the HyperCard, yes, some of the boards I'll note in terms of when we get to the ROG Maximus, which ones will come with the actual HyperCard add-in option as opposed to not. But in the ROG Strix lineup, the only one that comes with this Hyper add-in card will just be the Dash E. Only the Dash E will come with this, okay? Okay, guys, so let me go ahead and let's get into it. Let's show off this micro ATX and this mini ITX, because these boards are absolutely awesome. And again, I just want to show you guys what you're taking a look at here. So let's go Strix. We're going to talk about the Dash G and the Dash I. Why doesn't everybody let me know in the chat? 3 seconds. You want to see the Dash G first or the Dash I first? Micro ATX or mini ITX? Which one we want to go with first? Let me know, guys. And we will go with that. All right, LAN OC reviews. Oh, Scott Roberts, David. Oh, we're split. We got 2 votes for the Dash I and 2 votes for the Dash E. Oh, Adam came in along with Robert to slot in. So I'm going to call it for the Micro ATX. It was split 50-50. But let's go ahead and we're going to go with the Dash G. All right, guys. And we'll save mini ITX, right? The best for the last, right? For those of you guys that are super into small form factor. So let's go into this. This is a fantastic board. If you guys really love micro ATX, this is a fantastic board. Really cool design right here where you can see it's got that nice integrated IO shield. It has this really nice design aesthetic in terms of the IO shroud. You can see full coverage VRM heatsink right here. Again, full dual contact design that is on this motherboard. The ProCool power connectors. You can see right here your fan headers that are right there. ARGB headers right here, along with your your RGB headers that are present that are on the board. Of course, your Type-C, your traditional front USB 3. You've then got your, which is nice in a smaller chassis, our QDIMM design, right, which is a single latch memory design that's on the board, right? M.2 right here, along with an M.2 heatsink, that new SMT, of course, PCIe slot, right? And then, of course, you can see another M.2 and another M.2. So even though we're talking micro ATX, still a lot of M.2, your 6 ports here in terms of your SATA ports, right? You can also still see the Thunderbolt header, which is also on this. So you could be running a GPU and also still be running the Thunderbolt add-in card on this board, which is really nice. Additional ARGB headers down here, along with additional fan connectors and that high quality still ALC 4080 and Savitech amp audio design. And then you can also see right here, If you didn't notice, right? If I get in tight there, there's another fan header right there. So this is really nicely laid out for a micro ATX board. And keep in mind that you still have PWM output controls, so you can run a splitter to one of these headers and have 2, 3, 4 fans connected right there, right? So you can see you've got your 1, 2, 3 right there, and then we've got the other fan header that's over right here, and then we also have another fan header right here. And then we have another fan header right here. So quite a number of fan headers that are on there. And one thing you might notice, which is a little bit interesting, you might see right here, if you guys can read it, it says CH fan 1P. Well, I'm going to talk to you in a little bit of a moment why that P is important, because we're continuing to evolve and implement that ASUS Hydro node technology that we have really led the industry with showing why we take fan controls and fan functionality so seriously compared to, I really think, anybody else in the industry. It's a really cool feature that I'm going to be talking to you about, and I think even makes more sense in a small compact chassis. So here's just a little bit of an angle design. You can definitely see very robust finned heat sinks that are on here. On your rear I/O, you've course got your multi-channel audio output, optical, Wi-Fi 6E, 2.5 gigabit LAN, Type A, Type C, 20 gigabits, your USB 3, another Type C, more USB 3, more USB, and then clear CMOS, and of course DP and HDMI. This could make for also a really cool small form factor kind of gaming build if you do go with a more compact micro ATX chassis. And here, I just want to show you a shot to actually show you the extent that you still have here on this board in terms of your total M.2 without those heat sinks that are present, right? So you've got one slot right here. You can see another slot right there and another slot right there. So you still have quite a bit of M.2 expansion that is available to you on this board, even though we went ahead and we shrunk the board down. Okay, very cool. Let me go ahead and exit out of that. And let me check if there's any questions on the Dash G before I get into our next bracket right here. So give me 1 second. And in case anybody was wondering, the power configuration on that one, remember, is still very high-end. It's the Team Power Stage configuration, 14 plus 1 power stage configuration. And all the ROG Strix boards, too, if you may be kind of wondering about, the PCB design here is also our Evolve StatCool 3 Plus, which is 2 ounces. And the reason why this can be actually an important point is that with additional PCB layers, as well as the StatCool design implementation, it actually improves the thermal dissipation performance from heat soak that gets generated within the CPU socket area. And that essentially can just be advantageous in terms of giving you overall lower board operating temperatures. So the ROG Strix boards do have kind of a premium step up in that regard by implementing the StatCool 3 Plus design implementation that's on the board. Okay, and again, the Dash G is $349. So essentially the same price that you're going to have here for the Dash A in white, $349. So you can go micro ATX or you could go ATX, either which one. But the micro ATX, keep in mind, is going to be DDR5. Okay. All right, guys. Very, very cool. All right. So yes, in a moment here, we're going to get to Maximus. What LAN? Oh, the LAN is going to be on the G board. Is going to be 2.5 gigabit LAN, Intel, latest revision, and also Wi-Fi 6E. So you get both, you know, whatever you want. You want ultra high speed Wi-Fi or you want high speed LAN, you're going to have both options available to you. So let's go ahead and take a look at the... Hey, Tommy, don't worry. You can definitely go back and take a look at it. But let me go ahead and show it to you just one more time before I switch over to the Dash I board. I will go ahead and bring it up for you one more time so you can take a closer look at it. And if you still have any questions on it, feel free to go ahead and ask. No worries, man. So here, oops, sorry, guys. Had a little bit of a bug right there. Give me 1 second. Figure out what happened there. Okay, here we go. Hopefully that should clear that up. All right, there you go. You can see that is the Dash G board. And one other item too, and I didn't touch on it yet because we haven't gotten to this section yet, but all the ROG Strix boards will feature the AIOC overclocking technology. So that is an important point because the TUF Gaming series don't feature AIOC, along with the ProArt series don't feature AIOC, but all of the ROG Strix boards, from Mini to Micro to ATX, all feature AIOC overclocking technology. And I can tell you that while we can't go into a full performance demo today, it's going to be coming in the future. It's really awesome, very impressive. And if you're looking to even be able to take those P cores and those E cores further, AIOC is going to be your friend to be able to do it easily, effectively, efficiently, and reliably. All right. So let's go ahead and show you guys the Dash I. Ooh, I'm very excited about the Dash I, guys, here. Let's go ahead and show you this stunning board. So here we are stepping it up into the Mini ITX, and this board does not pull any punches. It is a serious design marvel in terms of the amount of work and effort that we've put into really elevate the level of connectivity and expansion and functionality that you would expect in a Mini ITX board. So you'll see, of course, a really nice, cool, clean design aesthetic. Of course, in most situations, you're never going to see this when it's packed into a side to a Mini ITX chassis, but it still is a great looking board. You can see that heat pipe, large, high performance VR and heat sinks across the impressive power delivery design implementation that we do have on this board. And this is a 10+1 base power configuration, ultra high performance power stages, smart power stages that we have on here, along with inductors. So definitely, again, while this is going to be a compact board, you're definitely going to be able to run overclocked i5, i7, i5, i9, no problems. ProCool power connector that's in here. From there, you can, of course, see that it's only a 2-DIMM design. You do have the QLED, decode LEDs right there. So CPU, graphics, boot device, CPU, DRAM, graphics, and boot device. Your 24-pin power. You can see your fan headers that are there at the top, right? You've got your traditional front USB connector. You've got your internal Type-C. And then you're going to see this whole little card right here. And so we're going to get to this in a little bit, but this is really special. This is very different. You got an ARGB header right here, and then you can, of course, see your HD audio connections, fan headers, right, and a USB 2. And then you got your traditional by 16 SMT. So our new SMT safe slot design, right, which is even better than our prior generations. So let's go ahead and take a closer look at where this board really begins to separate itself. So on the back, you're going to have Thunderbolt. So you get ultra high speed connectivity that's going to be on here. You've got your line level output, optical output. You've got clear CMOS, which I know a lot of you are going to appreciate on a Mini ITX. That's going to be there. You don't have to worry about kind of shorting the board in terms of jumpers or doing anything in terms of using, removing the battery or anything like that. Now you've got it on the back. Wi-Fi 6E. You got your other high-speed USB on there. You got 2.5 gigabit LAN, another Type A port, more USB, and HDMI. And remember that HDMI is a 2.1 HDMI port. And again, these are Thunderbolt 4 built on board. Okay. So now here, this is totally look. What is this? What is this, guys? This is ROG innovation at its finest right here, guys. Right here, this is a new specialized daughter board, which you can see will then give you another ARGB header, and then give you your SATA ports, and then give you your front lead connections and a speaker connection, all in this optional daughter board, right? Now, the reason why we went ahead and put this optional daughter board is because anybody that's built in a system knows that it can be super challenging to try to get all these connectors in here and then figure out your wiring. You've got a bigger graphics card installed. You've got other things going on. And so now you have this card that with that right angle orientation and optionally set up, you can go ahead and run those things directly to that and then plug in that card. So again, you've got 4 SATA ports, an ARGB header, you got a speaker, and then you're also going to have your front lead connections, right? So very, very, very cool add-in item. So this is a close-up specifically of just this module right there by itself. Now, the next item is going to be this triple-decker design. This is an entirely new design implementation, which we've further refined, and we've even simplified it in terms of the number of screws. And the big thing here was to be able to maintain, of course, multiple M.2 SSDs, but then eliminate We were the first manufacturer to ever do dual M.2s on a mini ITX, so on the front and then on the rear. But because of certain considerations with also having it on the rear, we wanted to now fully integrate them in one single module. And now that's what you're going to have. When you break this out, you'll be able to install both of those two M.2 SSDs here in the front, as opposed to needing to do it with one front and one in the back. So that is the Z690-I. And another little thing that you'll also see here that's cool, right, is just, again, look at this that we included for you guys. It is an extension. We've brought this guy back. So this is the extension for your front connections. So you can go ahead and plug that in and you are good to go. So that is a really nice option right there. And then you can also see we've gone ahead and included a nice little splitter breakout for you as well. All right, guys, I know I covered a lot there on the Dash-I, so let me just see if we've got any questions right there. Hey, Robert, I would 100% agree. A really awesome idea. Tommy, it's a fantastic board. Yes, I would definitely agree. All right, guys. So, hey, GP, thanks for joining us, man. So that gives you an update on the ROG Strix series. So altogether, we've got, again, mini, micro, and ATX. Now, here in a moment, we're going to jump into the final set of boards with the ROG Maximus series. All right, guys, let me go ahead and give you the price point there for our Dash-I. The Dash-I will be coming at $439. So again, to recap, $469 for the Dash-E, $399 for the Dash-F, $349 for the Dash-A, $349 for the Dash-G, and $439 for the Dash-I. Okay. And just as a final recap, again, these are all of the ROG Strix series boards. If you guys have any, of course, other questions, feel free to drop them in there and we'll get to it in there. But now let's get into the absolute best. This is going to be ROG Maximus Z690. For many of you, you're probably aware ROG Maximus series boards, we set the absolute benchmark. If you're looking for the best, you want the best in terms of looks, you want the best in terms of overclocking, you want the most in terms of expansion, you want the super specialized functions and features, you're looking for those premium designs, you're into custom water cooling, we're going to have an ROG Maximus board for you. And unquestionably, I can tell you, I've been with ROG almost literally since the beginning. I've been with ASUS for a little bit over 15 years. ROG is celebrating its 15-year anniversary. I've seen us go from one board to all the way now. This, I do feel, all around together is the best range of ROG Maximus class boards we have ever released, and they really do bring it to the next level. So really excited about showing you guys what we've got here. So let me go ahead and load up here this image, and we're going to get to the ROG Maximus. All right, guys, let's take a look here. All right, guys, you can see we're going to have quite a number of boards for Z690. We're going to have, of course, the benchmark, which I think for many is going to be the tried and true classic for ROG, which is going to be the Hero board. Fantastic. It is probably my overall favorite, although I do have maybe a little bit I'm really liking the Apex as well, but the Hero is going to be the entry point. We are then going to be moving up to the Formula, which branding for this generation not only maintains its tradition of integrating that cross-chill EK, a water block for the VRM, but offers an entirely new color and design with white in moonlight white finish, which I think looks stunning, and I know a lot of you are going to be really excited about. We then are going to be offering the Apex, right, which is going to be great for any builder, but again, is really going to be tuned for those overclockers, tweakers, water coolers that are looking to push the limits when it comes to frequencies. You're going to really love the Apex board. And then, of course, we do have the absolute flagships, our best boards that we have, which is going to be the Extreme and the Glacial. So let's jump into it. So I've already got the Hero laid out right here. You've been seeing it since the very beginning. One of the really cool design elements right here is going to be this brand new, what we call polymorph display. So it uses an entirely new design language implementation, which actually allows for kind of really cool addressable patterns that can actually flow through the display and can be customized and kind of tailored to really be able to offer an entirely different kind of look and feel. It's really, really cool. And it's quite impressive when you get to actually see it in person in terms of the design aesthetic on the board. So that is going to be the Hero board. We're going to go ahead and take a closer look here, of course, at the images and you know where these boards differentiate themselves. So let me go ahead and get our images up and running here, and we'll get this moving along. So give me 1 second here. Okay, DR5, ROG Maximus. So we are going to start off with the Hero guys, and we will move this along there. Hey, Super Tuna. So yes, audio is going to be fantastic for these. We have continued to really improve the audio generation to generation. So this is going to be the best audio that we've pretty much been put on a motherboard. And I'll definitely be kind of touching on what we're going to have specifically on this board. But that is going to be one of the key differences between the ROG Strix series and the ROG Maximus series. The ROG Maximus series look to integrate an ESS Saber DAC alongside the high quality ALC Audio 4000 series codec and amp that we implement onto the board. So let me go ahead and bring up the shots here for the Maximus board. So here you guys can see this is the ROG Maximus Hero. You'll notice that I didn't say a number. That's going to be a design change for this generation. There's no, like in the past, we had Maximus 10, Maximus 11, Maximus 12, Maximus 13. It's now just Maximus and then model name. So Hero along with the chipset designation. So here you can see this new, what we call polymorph based design implementation on the actual shroud. It is fully customizable. You can go into the ROG Armoury Crate software and Aura Creator software to be able to go ahead and customize this. You can see this really nice cold forged heatsink design that we have on here. Very large and robust heat sinks. You can see that really the overall color tone is monochromatic and it looks stunning. And I'm going to show you what the board looks like without any RGB because it does look great. So let's just show a little bit of some of the design language right here. So you can see right there just how you can have an entirely different display customization. Again, let's go a little bit tight in here. And you can see you've got one kind of design look that you could have, and then you could have another design look right there, right? So this can be, again, set up and customized and changed. And you could go with a fixed color, so it could be all red, or it could be blue, or it could be, as you see right here, like in an addressable lighting pattern. And here, the board is just with it turned off. So you can see it's got a really nice, clean, and stylized aesthetic, even without any type of the lighting present that's on the board. So this board is built, though, to be serious. With an ROG Maximus board, you expect the board to be built for a high level of performance, and definitely that's what you get. ROG Maximus boards have an upgrade compared to the Strix series, where we're using even higher performing FP caps, FP10 rated caps, higher performing inductors, higher performing power stages. So all the key components that you're going to have in terms of the VRM power componentry, along with the VRM assembly, which is going to be the heatsink assembly itself, are all upgraded. Now, again, this doesn't mean that, quote unquote, the board is just better for overclocking, because the Dash E board, Dash A board, the TUF Gaming board, the Dash A from the Prime series are all going to be great for overclocking. Even if you want to overclock in i7 and i9, you can fully do that to pretty much just about its limits. The benefit you're going to have here is going to be overall better efficiency, and at that top end, even a little bit better stability. But overall, really, it's just about kind of taking it to the next level, that if you make the investment, you're going to get the premium componentry that's built in, okay? So if we take a look here at the rear I/O, you're going to see your multi-channel audio output, your optical out, Wi-Fi 6E, Type A, Type C, Thunderbolt natively on the motherboard, so you don't need to add it through the actual add-in card, 2.5 gigabit LAN, and then, of course, another USB, clear CMOS, USB BOS flashback, and that HDMI, which is also 2.1. This board will also come with the Hyper M.2 add-in card. So we talked about a little bit earlier about the Hyper M.2 add-in card, right? So this one does come in there. In total, this board will support up to 5 M.2 based SSDs. So I do want to go back to my motherboard, though, here and show you guys a little bit tight some of the kind of key specialized design attributes. So one is, you don't see it, but this has massive finned VRM heat sinks. There's a heat pipe that's integrated within here. You've got the large, robust ProCool power connectors, right? You'll see that we also did something with the fan headers on this motherboard. They've been grouped to be a little bit more targeted and kind of I'd say, zone for enthusiast configurations and water-cooled setups. So you'll actually see that we grouped all kind of them here at the top, right? So you've got your CPU fan, CPU optional. You've got your pump header all in kind of this one grouped block. You then have your debug LED, of course, your ARGB headers, retry button and flex key. This flex key is cool. You can customize this button to do different things. You can use it to boot directly into the UEFI BIOS. You could use it to customize your RGB lighting on and off. You can do different things with it. So that's a really cool option that we have built in. Of course, your power button. You've got your traditional 24 pin. Here, this board does support the quick charge technology. So this will give you quick charge 4.0 when you use the auxiliary 6-pin power connection. You've got the quick eject technology to be able to eject the graphics card by just pressing that button. And we demoed that a little bit earlier. Your right angle, of course, front USB 3, SATA ports, another front USB 3 that's on there, which is great if you've got a chassis which has dual front USB 3 on it. Down here, often overlooked, but a key difference between Maximus and Strix is going to be an integrated water cooling header. So this gives you temperature inlet and temperature outlet. For custom water cooled blocks and flow monitoring. And a really cool update, I can tell you this generation Armory Crate has this information built in. So it will give you a readout of that information, okay? USB 2 headers, and then your additional chassis fan headers, and then these P headers. If you remember, I talked about these P headers also on the Strix board. I will tell you now in a little bit now what the actual HydroNode headers are offering you. And then you can see your other RGB headers that are on here, and then your HD audio, and then your Supreme Effects audio design, which on this board, like I said, will be further upgraded because it has an ESS Saber DAC. So let's go into some of the other kind of key differences that are going to be on this motherboard. So the first thing is those P headers that I talked about. The P header will introduce a feature that we call HydroNode. And the really cool thing about the HydroNode technology is that you can essentially connect compatible fans. They do have to be HydroNode compatible fans. We have fans coming out from partners like BitPhoenix, Silverstone, and more partners later. But traditionally, if you wanted to connect multiple fans, so let's say I had like 2 fans, right? And I wanted to connect them to one header on a motherboard, I would use a splitter. And I would plug that splitter in and it would give me like 2 or 3 connections and I connect my fans, right? With the HydroNode, you will still kind of follow the same process, but there's an additional hardware IC that's on the board along with here on the fans that they can communicate together, and we can give you individual control of each fan, even though they're connected to one header. So that means you could have like 3 fans connected to one P header, but 2 could be maybe front intakes and the other could be a top mounted exhaust. And you could have them operate differently, different fan curves, different profiles. You'll also get information like the operating lifespan and even the name of the fan read out to you. So it's a really cool, really advanced feature that we have introduced. When you see that P header or you see HydroNode technology, that is what we're talking about. Okay, so that is a really cool feature that we have built in for the Maximus series. Okay. Let me go ahead and just see, before I keep moving these things along to the next board, if we have any questions specifically so far on the Hero, because I think for many, the Hero is going to be kind of probably, you know, the most popular ROG Z690 series motherboard because of its price, its feature set, and kind of the, you know, the core functions and features that it offers in terms of an upgrade comparatively to the other boards, right? So let me go ahead and quickly take a look and see here if we've got any questions there. So Dave, yeah. So as I noted, there are fans that are going to be coming out from Silverstone and from BitPhoenix. There'll be other partners as well. And if you don't use that, it's fine. You will be able to go ahead and still use your traditional kind of fans without any issues. So, you know, you can still do traditional PWM splitting or anything like that. So no issues in that regard. Okay. One other update that I did want to let you guys know for all ROG Maximus series motherboards, I'm sure you'll love it, but you're going to get an included USB 3.2 Gen 1 flash drive, which comes included with all of your Maximus boards. So for installing your drivers, you can just use that flash drive. But keep in mind, all the boards will come with Armory Crate and Armor Crate will auto load to be able to install the LAN driver for you, and then you can download the updated utility and drivers directly through that, even if you don't use the flash drive. But if you want to install traditionally, you will get this included flash drive, which will come with the Maximus boards. The Maximus boards will also come included with a 1-year licensed version of ADA 64 included, full version inside the box. And you'll also get a 1-year licensed version of BullGuard AV, which will also come included with the boards. Okay. So let me go ahead and get ready. I'll confirm the price for you guys, and then we'll go to the next board. So the Hero is going to be coming in at $599. Okay, so that's our starting point. So let's get ready, and we're not going to go to the Formula first. We're going to go to the Apex first, guys. So let's go first to the Apex. All right, here we go. Give me 1 second. Oh, I'm actually missing one of the images that I need for this, guys, but I'll pull it up in a second once I show you guys the Apex. So give me 1 second here. All right, so here you can see the Apex. The Apex has been built really for kind of the OC enthusiasts, for those that really kind of want to be able to kind of go in, spend time and effort within the UEFI, take advantage of specialized hardware that we do have. Now, one hardware item that I didn't talk about is also on the Hero, and it's also been a hallmark of ROG boards for a couple of generations, is our differential dye sense monitoring technology. This is actually a specialized hardware implementation that's on the motherboard, and you do have the option within the UEFI to toggle this on and off, but it allows for a more accurate mechanism to actually monitor CPU core voltage, as opposed to the traditional mechanism, which actually relies a little bit on an interpreted logic, which doesn't necessarily always give you the most accurate values. So regardless that you see software and you're seeing that information registered to you, there is still not necessarily the most accurate representation of that information because of how it's actually flowing through the conversion path. And so with this differential dye sense monitoring option, you do actually have a more accurate representation of the V core that's being supplied. And that will give you a little bit more effectiveness in terms of how you tune your voltage. So that's another key difference between ROG Maximus boards and ROG Strix boards. So here you can see the Apex. It's got that classic design that we've incorporated with Apex for multiple generations in the X concept design. You can see the cool design implementation right there. You got your ProCool power connectors. You can see some right-angled connections right there. You've got the DIMM.2 add-in card right there, which allows you to add in 2 additional M.2 SSDs. You can see only got 2 DIMM slots, but keep in mind with DDR5, you have much higher memory density, so you're still not talking like this would be a small amount of memory. You could easily run 64 gigabytes on only 2 DIMMs. You've got that flex key that we talked about, the debug LED. There's actually even more specialized debug LEDs that are part of this board for this specific kind of water cooling and overclocking community. We have some specialized switches. We have voltage monitoring points that are on the board as well. Right. You can also see your high-speed USB 3.2x2 internal Type-C header, chassis fan header. You can also see right there your front USB 3, supplemental power right there, SATA, fan headers, another fan header right there. Now, this is going to be a distinguishing point, a BIOS switch, and that's because the Apex has 2 full independent UEFI ROMs. So why do you want that? If you're a tweaker and tuner, maybe you want to run different UEFI revisions. Maybe you want to run one specifically for overclocking, one for pure stock operation, or maybe you want to try different overclocking profiles tuned in different ways, and you want to be able to go back and forth. That is why you would want to have hardware-based switches. Now, some other motherboards sometimes will say that they have quote-unquote dual BIOS, but dual BIOS might just mean a backup BIOS, and you don't have any control to it. You have true, full, dual, independent UEFI ROMs, and so you can switch between the two. The water cooling zone headers that we have here on the board, front USB 3 right here, Thunderbolt, the V-latch implementation, which we'll get into more when we get into performance tuning in our future stream, but it's a very specialized function that is going to be for the overclocking community. That's very cool. And then, of course, our SMT safe slot connections. And you still do also get the isolated audio design, even though this is kind of our more overclocking focused board. I don't have the IO shots for you guys here, but I will go over those specifications. So give me 1 second. And I'm also going to bring up one of the very cool accessories that this one has, including the dim.2. So the dim.2 is this little guy right here. I will show this in a secondary cam shot, but this is essentially gets installed on that dim.2 slot. And when you take off the heatsink, you will be able to go ahead and install your M.2 SSDs. So you go ahead and just show you what that looks like there. So here you can see, this is the dim.2. You can open it up, and then you would go ahead and install your M.2 SSDs right there. Very, very simple. And there's one on the other side. So you can install 2 additional M.2 SSDs on the Apex via this dim.2 add-in card. And we have a very cool accessory that's actually on the Apex that I want to be able to show you guys. So give me 1 second to be able to bring this up. So I'm pretty sure I have it here. I just need to find the image. So 1 second, guys. And then we are going to get to the formula board. In case anybody was wondering, in terms of the connections that we talked about on the rear, so this board is still very packed in terms of the rear I/O connection. You're going to, of course, have the integrated I/O shield on the board, clear CMOS button. You get the USB 3.Gen 2x2 Type-C, 5 USB 3.2 Gen 2 Type-A headers, 4 USB 3.2 Gen 1 Type-A headers, Wi-Fi 6E, 2.5 gigabit LAN, are all going to be on there. And the audio still is the same class of audio that we're putting on the other boards. So you get the ALC 480 audio codec with the Savitech amp that's built on there. So still very nice, high quality premium audio design that's on the motherboard. Okay. Let me go ahead and see if I can get this, guys, for you. So 1 second here. Yes, so this is what I want to show here, you guys. 1 second. 1 second, guys. Sorry here. Ah, yeah, I found it right here. Okay. So for the Apex board, it is going to have a very cool little accessory that we are going to have available. And this is going to be right here, the Voltician. It's essentially a specialized module that we have right here that will dock in, that without getting super complicated, and again, for some of you might not be necessarily something that you're going to use, but again, this is the focus and the innovation of ROG, where we really try to offer enthusiasts a whole nother level of being able to kind of look at the information that's available on the board and then be able to apply that into how they're performance tuning their board. So what some people don't realize is, even with voltage monitoring points and things like that, you actually don't have deep enough level analysis or fast enough level response. And in some situations, you would have had to use an oscilloscope to be able to actually have the advanced measurement that you need in terms of how voltage is being applied, to be able to correctly kind of make certain tuning attributes. But not everybody has access to this or knows how to actually lay out the actual connections to the board and to be able to do this correctly. So we've developed this module that will essentially provide you a nice UI interface with an Armory crate, and you can see this information to then be able to make your performance tuning points. So it's essentially kind of like taking, some of the functionality you would have in an oscilloscope and then bringing that into this actual device. And so you can see right here how it docks in. Very straightforward, and we can store the information. We can monitor the information. You have access to it, and you will actually see right here readout information within the dashboard that will be offered within Armory Crate. Okay, so more to come on this very cool feature. Like I said, once up, we can discuss a little bit more about performance. And when we get to the actual dedicated live streams that we'll have on just these series boards, we'll fill in kind of some more details on this. But it is a unique aspect that will be on just the higher end Apex and the Extreme board. So do keep that in mind, that that's where you see a bit of differentiation. What's the lowest board that would have switchable BIOS? Would be the Apex. That would be the lowest board with switchable BIOS, because even the Hero won't have dual BIOS design. It won't have dual ROMs. The DIMM.2 does not get the quick doesn't get the quick latch design that we have like on directly on the motherboards. We are looking at that maybe for the future, but as of right now, you would still mount it kind of in the traditional configuration with a standoff, and you would put the screws there. Okay. Very cool. Yes. All right, guys. So that covers the apex. So now let's get to the formula. The formula. I know a lot of you guys have been waiting for this one. So let's go ahead and show you guys what we have done here for the next generation when it comes to the formula board. So give me 1 second to open up this image here. Oh, and sorry, I didn't give you guys the price on the Apex. The price on the Apex, I believe, is going to be $799. So remember, the Hero, the Hero is $599. The Apex is $719. Okay, and the formula, I'm actually giving it away there, but in a moment I will tell you the formula will be $799. Okay. So let's go ahead and take a look here at the formula. ROG Maximus. Here we go. Okay, formula, guys. All right. Here we guys go. Let's go ahead and take a look. Formula. Beautiful board. Fantastic. So you can see right off the bat, one of the biggest design differences is going to be that it uses an entirely different design aesthetic, where we now got this moonlight white, which is part of the actual over ID design. And it just absolutely looks stunning, right? You still keep one of the hallmark traditions of course, the Formula series, where it has the integrated cross-chill VRM block, which is this guy right here. This can be run entirely passively. You don't have to water cool it. So if you love the way this board looks and you don't want to water cool it, you don't have to. But of course, you're going to get a whole nother level of performance in terms of cooling these components. But keep in mind that I talked about, right? These series of motherboards feature even higher end inductors, higher end power stages, higher end heatsink design, higher end capacitors, and overall PCB topology than the Strix series. And in that regard, those boards are running stable and reliable, stock or overclocked. So it's not a question that you have to do it. This is, again, just for an enthusiast that really wants to take things to that next level. It's an option for you, right? You can see just the beautiful finishing that we have throughout here. You'll see here, this is the actual live dash display, which is on the motherboard as well. And we're going to show you what this guy looks lit up, but I just wanted to give a little bit of a perspective to it without any RGB lighting, okay? Let's go ahead and take it to the next level, guys. Let's go ahead and light this board up. There we go. So you can see you're going to have two zones of lighting down here, and then we have another zone of lighting. And like many of the motherboards, we've also paid attention to try to make sure to offset this so that even once you get the GPU installed, you still do have this kind of auxiliary view that'll be available to you when it's installed within the chassis. And on the back, you can see that we have the large, of course, full metal, of course, backplate as well that also does serve to be able to provide some thermal dissipation as well. And here's a close-up of the actual the shroud itself and just the finishing. And you can see it's very smooth, very clean, really looks fantastic. And of course, once you remove those, then you would have access to your traditional inlet and outlet so that you could go ahead and take advantage of a custom water cooling setup. And there's, of course, your lighting as well. So taking a look here at the rear I/O, you can see that you've got your multi-channel line level output, optical out, Wi-Fi 6E, tons of USB Type A, more USB Type A. Then you've got super speed 10 gigabit. You've got Thunderbolt, again, built on natively, and 10 gigabit LAN, 10 gig. So not 2.5, but 10 gig. More USB here, HDMI 2.1, clear CMOS, and USB BIOS flashback. All right, so let's go ahead and go back here in a moment. And I'll also show you that this will come with the HyperM.2, but of course, this is a white motherboard, so we wanted to make sure that that HyperM.2 card matches, so the included card is going to match. You don't have to worry about being it black and then being with white, although, you know, I think everybody likes a little bit of a panda build, but, you know, there you go. If you want to make sure that it matches, it's going to come included with a HyperM.2 add-in card, which will be in a silver. And you can see, again, all those nice heat sinks and fins that we have there. Okay, so that shows us what we have in terms of the formula. So the formula will be coming in at $799 in terms of its overall price point. So it will be coming in a little bit higher, but of course, like I said, you're going to be having a more robust board in terms of, like I said, those additional items like the 10 gig LAN that you have on this board, and of course the integrated water block, which is going to be on this board as well. So let me just see if we got any questions here for the formula. I would definitely agree. Yeah, that metal backplate with the 10 gig LAN, it's pretty sweet. Okay. All right, guys. Yes, these boards, all Maximus series boards are DDR5. Sorry, I didn't kind of reinforce that when I was going over the tour because I noted it earlier, but all Maximus boards are only DDR5. If you want DDR4, you would need to look at ROG Strix with the Dash A board right here, which would be DDR4. You would look at the Dash P model on the Prime series, which would be DDR4, or you would look at the TUF Gaming series, which would also be DDR4, okay? But the majority of all the ROG boards, including the Strix series boards, are going to be DDR5, and all ROG Maximus boards are DDR5. Okay, fantastic. So that is going to be the formula board, and we'd love to see your guys' kind of just feedback and tell us what you think. I think that these boards are fantastic. They look great, and I think the formula is going to be an outstanding option for those of you that are going to want to kind of take it to the next level. Let me show you actually here. I think I have one shot that I want to show you guys just so you can see what it looks like if you do remove some of the heat sinks when you're accessing the drive. So give me 1 second here. Here you go. So this is where if we do remove the actual bottom portion, so you can see this board does still have the eject mechanism that we talked for being able to remove the graphics card, so you don't have to worry about that. You can still see that you do also have the Q latch design as well. So you have Q latch and you have Q release on this motherboard. The dual contact M.2 SSD heatsink, so on the bottom and on the top, right? And so you can see one M.2 right there, another M.2 there, and then another M.2 there. And then you also get the two that come included with the Hyper M.2 add-in card. You still have the water cooling zone headers that are also on this motherboard. And this one also does have the differential DiSense monitoring that is also on this board as well. And the audio, remember, is going to be the same, where only the Apex in this lineup doesn't have the ALC 4082 with the ESS Saber DAC. It's just the ALC AF42, while this one does have the ALC 4082 along with the ESS Saber DAC, the 9018. So a very high quality audio design built natively on the motherboard. Okay. All right, guys. So next up, let's go ahead and go to the Extreme. And then lastly, we'll wrap it up with the Glacial. So let's go ahead and get Extreme, guys, and show you what we got here. So give me 1 second and let me bring in the Extreme board. Okay, guys, so here you can see the Extreme, and the Extreme kind of continues what we've already offered there with the Formula and with the Hero. So you get that same polymorph display. You also have that live dash display that you saw in the Formula. So then that gives you that customizable display where you can have stat and readout information. This can be customized in Armory Crate and also even integrated with AIDA64. And then you can also see you have another RGB lighting zone where if we compare that to the Hero didn't have that. So here you have this zone of RGB lighting. You've got the live dash display, you've got the polymorph display, and then you have all that perimeter lighting that comes included on this. This board will also even come with more accessories. It will come included with the ARGB fan controller, which is inside the box. I don't think I have that one actually out here to show you guys, but that will give you additional ARGB headers and more four-pin fan headers that will plug directly into the motherboard. It also will come with the ROG Clavis, which is a ultra high quality USB-C quad DAC, which is inside the box. That will also be included. The standoff that we talked about, and quite a number of items. I'll get to that in a moment. But anyways, here, massive, super large, ultra high performance VRM using, of course, the SPS power stages, massive VRM heatsink, of course, with the heat pipe that runs in there as well. And this is actually, of course, a C heat pipe. So this travels from here through here through here. It's massive thermal dissipation performance. Again, everything in the board lineup, even in the Strix series, the TUF Gaming series, you're going to have a great OC experience regardless. Really what you're stepping up to here is just overall better efficiency, lower operating temperatures under load, and just the premium aspect of knowing that you're getting an outstanding board design. You've got your power connections, of course, over here. We've got fan headers that are over here. And keep in mind, though, with this board, since it does also come included with the optional fan, well, not the optional, but the included fan controller and ARGB controller, you can wire up the fans in kind of a couple of different ways. But this figures very similar to what we did with the Hero and the other boards where we've done grouped fan connections. You've got your monitoring points, the DIMM.2 add-in card right there. You've got then all right angle connections, which if you notice, the goal here was to make sure that this is an EATX board. So you're going to go into a larger chassis, but to be able to streamline all the cable management. Start key, the flex key, just like any of the ROG boards, Maximus boards that have flex key, this can be customized. You can boot straight into the UEFI, turn RGB lighting off. You can do multiple things with it. Your debug readout. You can, of course, see your Type-C right here. There's also other connections that are all right angle right here that I can't show you because I don't have a secondary image for it. But there are all multiple connections that are on there. So you get multiple headers that are there. The water cooling zone header, right? Then you have your secondary BIOS switch that's on there as well, along with some advanced overclocking options like safe boot and retry button. Okay, USB 2. The VLATch function, like I said, we'll talk about later in an overclocking scenario stream for later. And then some specialized, same thing, additional buttons for overclocking pursuits, right? RGB headers as well right there. And then, of course, your audio design. So that is going to be the Extreme board. Let me go ahead and get you confirmed pricing here on the Extreme, guys. And I'm going to confirm a couple of other points just on that Extreme board as well. So give me 1 second. Bringing it up here. Give me one moment, guys. Okay, here I go. Okay, so the Extreme will be at $1099. So the Hero $599, Formula $799, Apex $719, and then the Extreme will be $1099. So that is going to be your price points. And so lastly, we will touch on the Glacial here in a moment. But for some of the people that are kind of wondering about, again, some differences between the prior gen to this gen, I do want to kind of recap some of those notes that I did make. So you even go to higher performing power stages, right? So like I said, you know, the configuration on this generation is 24+1 versus an 18+2 on the previous gen, which again, it wasn't a factor. It wasn't a consideration. You, of course, went from DDR4 to DDR5. You also are going to have that support on this board to be able to run PCIe Gen 5 and M.2. Gen 5, that's something that you can do on all Maximus boards. Well, remember, only the ROG Strix-E will give you M.2 PCIe Gen 5, but all the motherboards will, of course, give you PCI Express Gen 5 for supporting graphics cards via the PCI Express slot. But if you're talking about for the future for M.2, you do want to critically look between boards that will support M.2 PCI Gen 4, and then PCI Gen 5 M.2 base SSD support, okay? Both of the models, both previous generation, this generation, supported Wi-Fi 6E as well as Thunderbolt 4 for that. And then, of course, you have the changes within the aesthetic design that were present on these boards as well. So that overall gives you most of the items that I think differentiate themselves on the, the Extreme board. Let me see here if you guys got any questions right here. How many M.2 can the Extreme handle? It would be 5. So you would be taking a look at the ones that you can additionally run. So 3 on board and then 2 via the DIMM.2 add-in card. But keep in mind, of course, you could use like the Hyper M.2 add-in card to be able to even install more if you wanted to. So you could still even go through more M.2, but kind of default, quote unquote, out of the box, your standard configuration will be 5 M.2 based SSDs. And that's pretty much the baseline for pretty much all the ROG Maximus series boards. Not sure what you mean. As far as multi-GPU support, the Maximus does fully support multi-GPU support, so no issues in that. Okay, so I think if there's any other questions that come up for the Extreme, let me know. But Juno from our team is also doing a great job in terms of answering questions you get in there. And keep in mind also that, like I said, that there's some accessories that we'll show in the dedicated streams later for the Maximus series. And I've got the full array items. But actually, I might hold on. Let me see if I can. If I might have them on here. Let me see if I do have them here. Might be able to show you guys 1 second if I have it on here. Okay, so I do have the clavis. So let me show you here, guys. Because it is a little bit tricky. Some of these boards do come with additional items that do also really add an additional value proposition to the boards outside of just the kind of the core functionality and feature set that comes included. Yeah, so here we go. Okay, so here is one of the items. So let me show this first. So remember that the Extreme will come also included with this, which is the USB-C clavis. So this is already a very high quality DAC that we sell independently for over $100. That does come included. It's a quad ESS Saber DAC and amp with also our ASUS AI noise canceling tech. You could use this on your Switch. You could use it on a console. You could use it on a laptop, desktop, anything that uses USB-C. This comes included inside the box with the Extreme board. Okay, so that is one of just the included accessories that comes with the board, right? Another included accessory that comes with the board is also going to be this guy, which is the ARGB fan controller and hub. Well, it's a fan controller hub scenario. So this will also be inside the box, which also gives you an ARGB additional headers and additional fan headers that are also on the board. So do keep that in mind, that does come included. And just like the Hero that we talked about, you get the 1-year license version of AIDA64. You get the 1-year license version of Aviar antivirus software with BullGuard. And all Maximus series boards, along with Strix series boards, also have MemTest integrated inside of the UEFI firmware. So if you want to run memory testing on your boards for DDR5, including, you do have that built into the motherboard, right? Okay, guys, so let's lastly go ahead and take a look here at, let me go ahead and pull up the last board here, which is going to be the Glacial. All right, guys, and if you do have, of course, like I said, any other questions, just feel free and let me know, guys. So let me pull up the Glacial here, guys. Bam. All right. So the Glacial is the end-all, be-all. It is the benchmark enthusiast motherboard. It really represents the best that we have to offer in terms of features, functions, innovation, design work that we do on the board. This does kind of follow in what we did with the Z690 Glacial series motherboard. It was closely developed with EK. It was a real kind of pursuit in high-quality performance engineering to be able to offer users kind of the most seamless high-end water cooling experience, where it's not a CPU block. It's not a mono block. It is what is called an Uber block. And it's called an Uber block because it covers the CPU, the VRM, the M.2, the 10 gig LAN. All of that is cooled by this block solution. On top of that, the motherboard uses our WB sensor technology that we built in, which gives you integrated flow monitoring. It gives you integrated temperature monitoring. It gives you a lot of those value points that historically you would have to have additional hardware built in to be able to check the flow or be able to check the temperature inlet and outlet temperature, right? All of that has now been baked in, along with, of course, this premium RGB lighting experience. You, of course, have the Anime Matrix-based display that can be customized. You have the live dash display that's also in there. It's very, very impressive. For anybody that's felt this in hand, this board, I think it weighs something like over like 11 pounds when you feel it. It's quite heavy, but it's really, really impressive. So, of course, you can see your power connections. Very similar to the Extreme board. It's just it has the Uber block that's based on it. So I'm not going to go over all the exact connections because it is similar in that regard. But even this finishing, and just like on the Extreme, it uses the new electroplating process, which is even a more premium material process that we've used on the boards to kind of elevate the feel and the design aesthetic on there. So that is also something that you're getting on the Glacial board. So stunning in terms of its overall look and feel that you have here for the Glacial. And pretty much all the other attributes for the features, functions, and design aesthetics are going to be, the features and the functions are going to be the same as the Extreme board, except for the main difference is going to be that aesthetic differentiation and then, of course, the block implementation, right? Now, one note is that the Glacial doesn't have the Q release technology where you have the ejection, and that's just because it's an entirely different kind of scenario and setup that for custom water cooling, the way it would kind of be configured, you're generally not going to kind of eject the card out like in that. Usually that type of scenario, that type of situation. So that won't be present where, let's say, you would have the quick release technology on the other ROG Maximus series motherboards. And all the other accessories that we talked about that come included with those other boards do come there. So let me go ahead and confirm that pricing there for you guys for the Glacial. And the Glacial will be coming in at $199. So that's going to be essentially $1,999. The Extreme is going to be $1,099. The Formula will be $799. The Apex will be $719, and the Hero will be $599. Overall, this is really kind of going to be for those that absolutely want the best, want to be able to take that 1290K and be able to push it to its extreme limits and be able to want to running it super cool, right? And then also really have a showpiece of a system because it really does look stunning in terms of its overall design aesthetic. So let me go ahead and take a look and see if anybody's got any questions here that I see haven't been answered, and we'll try to get those answered for you. Yes, so this board would be only for water cooling. You cannot run this board passively. So like the Formula motherboard that we talked about, that motherboard, even though it has the integrated cross-chill VRM water block, you can run that passively or you could run it actively through a water cooling loop. This board, you have to run it with water cooling. If you don't want to do water cooling, you would want to get the Extreme board or take a look at the Hero board, the Formula, something along those lines. And keep in mind, we'll work with great partners like, let's say, EK, where I'm sure you'll see certain blocks that will be made available for like mono blocks. So even if you do want to cool like the CPU and the VRM, you'll see solutions available for boards, especially like I would say our Maximus Hero board, which is generally the most popular for traditional water cooling focus builds. No, it does not. So it covers the primary M.2 that would be out at the top of the motherboard, but not all of the additional M.2. So that portion right there, you would remove that to give you access to those additional drives. So you still get full high performance heat sinks that are present for that, right? But there is going to be a difference in terms of the full coverage on the water block side. For the scope of all, let's say, your M.2s, because the board in total can support up to 5 M.2 SSDs. So that's a good question. What I would show you is actually the that layout configuration that I talked about. So let me see if I can bring up that slide again here for kind of PCIe visibility here. So if you remember, I showed this a little bit earlier. This is your PCI slot layout configuration. So you'll see that you've got your primary lanes for the CPU that are supplied, and then you've got one set of auxiliary lanes that would be provided for M.2, and then you would have additional lanes that we provided from the chipset. So you have to account for kind of how that is all broken down, but you can definitely run multiple of the M.2 drives all concurrently within the system configuration. Okay, the bigger question would be when you're going to maybe be running, of course, PCIe Gen 5 in the future, M.2 SSD. That would also be a factor that you would have to evaluate when it comes to that. Okay, so I think that probably covers most of the questions, guys. If there's something that's still in there, feel free and let me know. So overall, guys, I'm gonna probably be wrapping this up here as far as the overall general stream here. Again, make sure to keep it tuned to our social media channels. I want to recap just on, of course, the ROG Maximus boards that I did touch on here. So again, we are going to have the Hero, the Apex, the Formula, the Extreme, and the Glacial, right? So that is going to be our series of boards there. And keep in mind, all the ROG Maximus boards will also feature our AIOC technology. And make sure to keep it tuned for an upcoming stream that will dive into AIOC. We're going to have a lot of upcoming content that will be on our PCDIY website, as well as in our PCDIY group. If you're not part of it, join the PCDIY group. It allows you to be the most up-to-date with what we're doing when it comes to ASUS. We've got a huge number of products that also got just announced today with brand new Thor series power supplies, new Delta S8 Animate headset, 2 new ROG gaming monitors, right? And a whole lot that we're always going to be talking about within the community when it comes to new hardware, tips and tricks and insights, builds inspiration, and our PCDIY Builder Spotlight. So if you want to be kept in the loop when it comes to ASUS hardware, join the group. I'm an admin there. If you have any questions, you can feel free and tag me. If you guys are watching us on demand when it comes to Facebook or YouTube or wherever you're checking us out, feel free to go ahead and tag me, drop a question. We'll do our best to go ahead and follow up with you guys when we can. With that, guys, make sure to keep it tuned. In the coming week and a half, we've got a lot more content coming from you for 12th Gen, Z690, and all the great things that ASUS is doing. So hopefully you found this, guys, useful and interesting. Thanks so much to Juno and the rest of the team for joining us and helping answer your guys' questions. So with that, guys, take care, take it easy, and enjoy the rest of your day.